Up in Williamsport, we are here in downtown Pittsburgh. A beautiful shot of PNC Park. Sunday night baseball presented by Taco Bell. The finale of a 4-game series between two teams with October on their minds. The defending World Series champions San Francisco Giants. And the hot as anybody just about Pittsburgh Pirates right now. As Tim Kirchin was just talking about, we got some interesting races going on. The Pirates need to win to stay within 3.5 of the Cardinals. The Cardinals beat San Diego earlier today, and with the Dodgers losing their 5th in a row, the Giants could move within a half game of the lead in the National League West. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pittsburgh. Beautiful night, beautiful ballpark. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Kurt Schilling. Glad you're with us tonight for Sunday Night Baseball. Shill, we start with the Pirates. They've won 2 of the first 3 in this series, 12 of their last 16 overall. 1-run wins, walk-off wins, excitement here at home. These are good times right now for the Pirates.
But this is a flashback to the late 70s, mid to late 70s here in Pittsburgh in a lot of different ways, in a lot of good ways. I think both teams tonight are looking at the wild card as the worst case outcome here. I think the Pirates look at it from the side of, well, you know, we got there and didn't make it. The Giants, I don't think they really care, but the Pirates are in a position to, I think, win that Central Division. I think all 3 of those teams are going to go to the playoffs, but they want the best of 5. You want Garrett Cole twice in a series. You want a good Liriano. You want to be able to outpitch somebody in a 5-game series, not 9 innings.
For the Giants, even if we don't know anything else about baseball, we know you never count the Giants out. We should have learned that over the last 5 years. They're still hanging around, even though they're banged up. What's the feeling in that clubhouse right now?
Well, when you talk to the players, they're just saying, you know, let's just hang close. The Dodgers keep losing, so that helps the Giants, even though they're not having a great road trip this trip. They're waiting, though. They're hoping by Labor Day they can get Joe Panik and Hunter Pence back. They picked up Marlon Byrd a couple days ago, and he paid dividends quickly for the San Francisco Giants. First at bat, hit a home run in their only win in this series against the Pirates. But they need to just stay close and then hope that at the end, because they play the Dodgers so well that they can head-to-head, they can pass them.
They've still got 7 left with the Dodgers. They're 9-3 against the Dodgers so far this season. We got a nice crowd. We got tons of kids here in the ballpark tonight here at PNC Park, ready for their beloved Pirates to take on the Giants. And a couple of former MVPs. 2012, Buster Posey won it for the San Francisco Giants. And in 2013, of course, Andrew McCutchen was the National League MVP. Both of them will put their talents on display here tonight. ESPN is presented by Taco Bell's new $1 Daredevil Loaded Grillers. Try all 3 if you dare. And in part by Chevrolet. Find new roads. And Ally Bank, where no branches equals great rates. Now, 2 things about the Pirates. They're good and they're loose. Andrew McCutchen, Josh Harrison. Pennant race stress, not evident here in Pittsburgh. 4th and final game of this series. The Pirates have taken 2 of the first 3. They are 5-1 against the Giants. Crazy stat on the Pirates. They're 21-29 within their own division this year. They're 52-19 against everybody else. Wow. Now, the problem is, if it's a problem, they got to play a lot of the Cardinals and a lot of the Cubs over the last 5 weeks of the season. But they're in good shape right now. Yeah, and if they don't win a division, they're going to probably have to play the Cubs in the wild card game the way everything's looking. Francisco Liriano to the mound for Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, Bruce Bochy's San Francisco Giants, although they're not playing great right now, and although they're dealing with injuries, they're getting help from the Dodgers above them. And a win tonight for the Giants, as mentioned, will move them within a half game of the Dodgers for top spot in the NL West. And they will play a series in L.A. beginning August 31st. They will host the Dodgers for 4 last week of the season. A look at the Giants lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. And quietly, as always, because he seems to do everything quietly, Buster Posey may be playing himself back into MVP contention again. We'll talk about Posey and McCutchen tonight. 3rd in the league in RBIs, 5th in the league in a batting average. Crucky, what about the addition of Marlon Byrd? Well, they needed help behind Buster Posey with the injury to Hunter Pence, and they pick up Marlon Byrd. You know, a guy with 20 home runs this year between here and Cincinnati, San Francisco and Cincinnati. And yeah, you know, at least there's a presence now behind Buster Posey in the lineup since Pence has been injured. When you talk about stuff, one of the guys whose name comes up a lot, Shill, is Francisco Liriano. It's always been about stuff with him, and he got hurt at a time when he was turning it into something special. This is a guy who I think fastball command is as important for him as anybody in the game. As a hitter, Crucky, I don't want to hit off him with 2 strikes. He doesn't throw strikes with his slider, which is his best, most effective wipeout pitch, but you can't lay off of it when he has command of his fastball because he throws so hard. The key tonight, look at the 1-1 counts. Hitters hit between 2 balls and 1 strike and 1 ball and 2 strikes. There is a larger differential in batting average against this guy than anybody else in baseball. .78 degrees, clear skies, beautiful night for a ball game here at PNC Park. Our 3rd time here in the last couple of months. Love it. As Nori Aoki will lead it off for the Giants, just recently back from the concussion DL. And earlier in the season, missed about a month with a broken fibula, but a guy who's really, when he's been in there, has played very well for the Giants, hitting .303 on the season. The Giants, in spite of all the injuries they've had and the perception that they're a pitching-dominated team, have scored the 3rd most runs in the National League this year. And when healthy, Aoki has been a good part of that. Well, very unorthodox is Aoki, but yeah, he has that a knack and ability to get on base even against tough lefties. And he's facing a tough lefty here. Inside out swing, ground ball to 3rd. Aramis Ramirez across the diamond for the first out. Aoki retired, and that will bring up Matt Duffy. Has to be considered one of the leading candidates for Rookie of the Year in the National League, along with, among others, Jung Ho Kang of the Pirates, who hit 2 home runs yesterday, and Chris Bryant of the Cubs, who hit 2 home runs today, as the Cubs won again. It's amazing to me. Every year, and both of you guys, we've had this conversation, the stars, the bright lights, you talk April, May, June, July, you're talking about Rookies of the Year. Jock Peterson, these big names, the Bryants, and then we get to mid-August and you start talking about somebody on the Cardinals or somebody on the Giants who nobody's heard of, but they're quietly having a fantastic season. I think if you go back to spring training, the plan for both of these guys, Duffy and Goff, was to be a utility infielder. Super utility, put him everywhere. Bruce Bochy and the Giants, some of the Giants players were raving about Duffy. Not only his speed, but they said, you know, he's going to hit some home runs once he gets, you know, figures the league out a little bit better. Matt Duffy really a natural shortstop. The departure of Pablo Sandoval. He has played almost exclusively third base for the Giants this year, hitting over 300. Gauck has played largely short and third. A lot of pop in his bat. And Chris Bryant putting up big numbers as well. Where the Cubs are playing well. They're now 20 games over 500. They won again today. Beat Atlanta 9-3. As we mentioned, Bryant hit a couple of home runs. Kyle Schwarber hit another home run for the Cubs today. And they are putting themselves in great position to make the postseason this year. The Giants are a lot closer to the Dodgers in the NL West than they are to the Cubs for the second wild card.
And the thing with the Cubs right now, it doesn't appear they can win their division, but who knows? They can come back as and get it as the Pirates can. But I think you're looking at possibly, if the season ended right now, the Pirates and the Cubs playing in a one-game playoff. If you're Joe Madden, who gets fired out there? You have to think Arrieta, but they gave John Lester a lot of money to be their ace.
Yeah, but as well as I do, Joe Madden doesn't manage that way.
Look at this guy, man.
Liner into right, a base hit for Duffy.
What you love about Matt Duffy, the battle. He battles Liriano until he gets finally something up a little bit, up. But look, watch him how he just look. I have 2 strikes, nice little short stride, stays on everything. Look at his head though. Look how still his head is, right in the center of his body, perfect. Guides that ball into right field for a base hit, and now you got to pitch to Buster Posey because you have a man on in front of him.
Hitting .318 on the season. Runner at first, 1 out, just underway here in the top of the first.
I had a chance to go back and watch Liriano versus Posey in about 10 different at-bats. Almost exclusive fastball starts, but never the same spot. Back-to-back at-bats. In, out, moving it back and forth. He's trying to get the 2 strikes as quickly as he can for that slider.
A little bit low, ball 2. Liriano in the season 8-6 with a .335 ERA. The opposition hitting just .213 against him. But Posey has had some very good success against him. 5 for 11. And Hurdle saying it's all about fastball command for Liriano. Can he throw enough strikes with the fastball shield to set up the put-away pitches?
Well, it's not about throwing enough strikes, really. And we talk about command and control. It's about throwing quality strikes. He's got to keep the ball out of the middle. He throws hard enough that he can make mistakes in the strike zone with his fastball. But all the success on his slider is dependent on the fastball. This backdoor slider is a big pitch for him, too.
In the air to center. Room for McCutchen. 2 down. Now Marlon Byrd, just picked up a few days ago by the Giants after the injury to Hunter Pence, and in his first at bat as a Giant on Friday, Truckee, he went deep.
Yeah, they got a breaking ball from Jeff Locke down and in, and he went down and golfed it, and that's kind of he's opposite of similar to a left-hand hitter. He likes the ball down and in. His natural swing is to just drop the head of the bat down on the ball. Strong enough he can hit it out of anywhere, but the Giants need him to be big till the rest of the guys come back.
And a liner to short to end the inning. No runs, a base hit, and a man left to the bottom of the first. The Pirates are coming up. Superior performing tires that knock it out of the park. Goodyear, more driven. Watching the Giants and the Pirates? Reply using hashtag #RepMyTeam with a picture of how you are supporting your team, and your tweet could wind up on TV. Clint Hurdle, the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. They have been a wild card team each of the last 2 years. He says the goal remains the same as it was back at spring training. Win the division. A win tonight, and they will remain 3.5 back of the Cardinals after the Cards win earlier today. A time now to take a look at Clint Hurdle's lineup tonight, presented by Taco Bell. These guys have been swinging the bats. This is a team with a lot of depth right now, and a guy in Starling Marte hit the walk-off home run in yesterday's game. Power, speed, defense, a very exciting player. And of course, Crucky hitting in the 3 spot again, one of the very best players in baseball in Andrew McCutchen.
Yeah, without question, this lineup was built around Andrew McCutchen, and the parts are falling into place for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But the Pirates go as he goes. Once he started getting hot, Dan, that's when the Pirates have taken off on this run and put themselves back in the pennant race.
Leading it off for the Pirates, Gregory Polanco, the young outfielder hitting .260 on the season, has been swinging the bat and getting on base very well the last 5-6 weeks or so. Kind of coinciding with Josh Harrison's injury. Harrison tore ligaments in his thumb. Polanco moved up to the leadoff spot. He's been getting on base a lot. Harrison just came back a couple of days ago. Started the last 2 games, one at second, one at third. But Harrison's going to go back into that super utility role. And Polanco does what he's been doing. Leads it off with a base hit. Now Starling Marte. And as Clint Hurdle said, he was kind of in the middle of everything yesterday, wasn't he? Here he is in the 2nd inning. Brandon Crawford thinking he might have gone deep. And Marte reaches up above the fence and makes the catch. And then in the 9th inning, George Cantos on the mound for the Giants, and Marte sends everybody home happy.
I think that's what gets lost in this great Pirates team, is the fact that they have 2 of the better corner outfielders in baseball. Starling Marte, you heard Clint Hurdle called him a 5-tool guy, and Gregory Polanco is a guy who's learning, but he has a cannon also. You don't run on those 2 guys, and that helps out your pitching staff a great deal when they can shut down going first to third.
15 home runs on the season for Marte. We mentioned speed as well. 24 steals, 5th in the National League, hitting a solid .290.
Loved Hurdle's comparison. Older player.
Cesar Cedeno.
Cesar Cedeno.
Marte certainly has the tools, and a guy, Crucky, who's hit 1st, 2nd, 4th at various points in his career.
Yeah, anywhere they thought they needed him, and I just think this is a better spot for him. The second hitter's become an important part of baseball lineups the last few years.
Ground ball left side. Backhanded stop Crawford to 2nd, 1. Not nearly in time at first, but a good play by Crawford to force the lead runner. So 1 out, 1 on for tonight's Giants starter, Ryan Vogelsong, who enters the game with a 9-8 record, a .393 ERA. Schill, he's been in the rotation. He's been in the 10. The Giants always seem to have a couple of starters either going on the DL or coming off the DL. And when they need somebody, they plug Vogelsong in with decent results.
Well, his ability, almost like a good utility player, his ability to do different things has been huge. But I still believe you can't start the season with 5 starting pitchers. You have to have 7 or 8. You heard Boch say, every time you kind of think he's headed down a bad road, he ends up showing up again. And when you're going to win a division, if you want to win a division, you got to be 5 deep. And this rotation, you got Baumgartner, you got Heston. This is a big arm for them, and it's all about command. Not going to throw the ball by you unless he's throwing his breaking stuff for strikes, and then he can get the ball by you later in the count. Need innings from him, though.
Facing Andrew McCutchen. .293, 18 homers, 78 runs driven in, 4th in the National League. A slow start for him this year, a slow start for the Pirates. As he picked it up, they picked it up.
Well, sorry. This is a guy that McCutchen will make a living off of. Not your 1 or 2. Middle to the bottom of your rotation is a guy, and he just missed a ball right there that he was going to hit out in the river, I think. And I think, Ryan, as a pitcher, you understand that, okay, I made my mistake for the night against him. I can't make another one.
Vogelsong, 38 years of age, was a Pirate back in the day from 2001 to 2006. Spent some time in Japan midway through his professional career. Now has come back and kind of had a second leg of his big league career. So years with the Giants. Runner starts and stops, and it's ball one to McCutchen.
And generally, you're doing that. I would assume a guy like him, he'll do that high fastball right there, which, by the way, is the hardest pitch in the game to command, to come back with his slider. Get him to chase the ball away. This is such a hard pitch to throw competitively because you have to make a mistake to throw it.
Give Marte a lot of credit right there.
Yep, he saw it.
He realized he had a bad jump, and the pitch was a fastball up. Easy throw for Susac to make the second base. He put on the brakes and went back to first.
See Posey at first base. 25 starts at first base this year for Buster Posey. And a base hit up the middle for McCutchen. Marte stops at second.
Well, one of the things is a fastball. If you're going to be a fastball pitcher and you're going to throw the ball 91 to 93 and you want to change north to south, when you go north, I don't think you can go south at 92, 93. I think you need to go east or west. He tried to come in, left that ball right down the middle. I like the selection. He just didn't execute the pitch. He throws that pitch where he wanted to. I think he gets a jam shot, at least gets one. They were playing, you see that shade pull there, Dan? Crawford's over in the hole looking for that fastball, and he comes in a little bit. He didn't execute the pitch.
So Pittsburgh threatening in the first. 2 on with a 1 out for Aramis Ramirez. Picked up a few weeks back from Milwaukee. It's announced he will retire by the end of the year. A lot of options on the infield right now for Clint Hurdle. Josh Harrison is back. They activated Jordy Mercer off the DL today. So with Harrison, Mercer, Ramirez, Gong, and Neil Walker, in essence 5 guys for 3 spots, although Harrison can play in the outfield. Ramirez has taken some ground balls at first. They could give Alvarez a day off at first against a lefty. But Clint Hurdle, he could have a different looking lineup every day, and he's always going to have a pretty good bench. Yeah, and that's the key, is his bench is going to be good. But, you know, you have to remember part of that bench are defensive replacements for when Jung Ho Kang and Alvarez, Pedro Alvarez are at first base. They always defend for them late in the game. Jordy Mercer will be that guy. Sean Rodriguez is usually the guy that comes in and plays first base for Alvarez late in the game. So then that'll weaken your bench if you go extra innings. Ramirez right now hitting in the cleanup spot. Gong hitting 5th. Gong has been hot. Ramirez has been hot the last couple of weeks. And Vogelsong is working himself into real trouble. Well, you see how the outfield shaded him to hit the ball the other way. This is Aramis Ramirez. Talked a lot about that last week with Kendrys Morales. The RBI situations are not trying to pull off because that's the easiest time to hit a ground ball. Trying to stay up the middle and the other way. And you see Blanco shading him to right center. Turn him loose at 3-0. No, not without Gunn swinging the bat. No.
Yeah, I do. Trusting he's an experienced veteran hitter, and the only ball he's going to actually swing at is a ball he can hit out of the ballpark.
Ball 4, bases loaded. And a hot hitter coming up in Jung Ho Kang, who yesterday hit not 1 but 2 solo home runs for the Pirates. Yeah, both come after Andrew McCutchen got caught stealing. He leads off the next inning with that home run. And then after Marte got picked off, he hits this home run. So he could have had a bigger day if the things that they were trying to do executed correctly. But you know, when you win a game 3-2, and you didn't make an out with runners in scoring position, didn't have anyone in scoring position really. Didn't leave a man on base the whole game. Didn't leave a man on base the whole game. Hard to win a game. You would think it'd be impossible unless you threw a perfect game or something. Ball 1 to Gong.
The challenge here right now is you got to hit at the plate. I think the Pirates know what sign the Giants are going with. Base is loaded. If the hitter wants it, that 5 for 12 becomes 6 for 13 with a grand slam. The challenge right there is a lot of times the pitcher will be trying to go with a fastball, but you want to shake a couple times to get to it, and the catcher goes through the repertoire. Changeup or split.
Low ball 2.
And a good one, too. I think the Pirates have the signs. He laid off that pretty easily right there, Johnny, in a 1-0 count.
Yeah, didn't Bruce Bochy tell us before the game that you know, Vogelsong, he said he goes, just hope he doesn't throw 30 pitches in the first inning.
But this is a hitter's count. That's a good pitch. And he kind of looked like he was taking that all the way.
Well, again, he hasn't commanded the strike zone yet. 4 pitches to Ramos Ramirez. First pitch a ball. You know, you can be very selective right now if you're gone.
Well, the key pitch, well, now you're 3-0. Key pitch to me was last at bat, 3-0. You know he's going fastball away, so the runner just looks for fastball away. It was second sign. He gave it, they threw it. Now everybody knows it.
Control has been an issue for Vogelsong, and it's been an issue here in the first inning. Bases loaded, 1 out. No score, bottom of the first. And a strike taken, 3-1.
Now here's where it's interesting. He hasn't commanded anything off speed yet.
Nope.
And he hasn't really commanded his fastball. But if you're gung, I mean, you got to look fastball away.
Yep. And you got to throw. I think you have to throw fastball away right here.
I mean, this is where you hope he is.
He is.
Not that he is inexperienced.
Nope. No, he went the slider.
You hope he rolls something over and can hit it the other way.
Now he went fastball in.
And Vogelsong walks in a run.
Well, you got to command the fastball, no doubt. Not a bad pitch, but he took it. This pitch to me was the one, and if I'm pitching, it tells me the hitter is getting signs. I'm tipping a little bit. Goes to 3-0, commands it. I think you got to go fastball away again here, Crocky. He goes into the corner, 94. He's trying to reach back and throw that ball a little bit. And I think he probably should have tried maybe commanding it a little bit more, but I'm not sure how he's feeling. This is a guy, like most pitchers, who depends on fastball command for the other stuff to be good. I still think that 1-0 take, tells me that the Pirates have the signs and are getting them. And I could be wrong. That might be the paranoia in the pitcher.
Second baseman, number 18.
But if you watch the
You'd be paranoid even if you were a position player.
You know, I never worry. I mixed it up to the point where they had to look around.
Yeah.
But you watch the runner, see what he's doing. He's not looking, so.
Ramirez out at second. Bases loaded, a run in. Neil Walker is the batter.
And that's what a smart catcher and a smart pitcher do. Struggling with your command, you go to a breaking ball that makes you stay in your delivery and finish the pitch, which a lot of times is the curveball.
Walker, the Pittsburgh native, very good numbers in his career against Vogelsong, 8 for 19. Hit a long 2-run homer on Thursday in the opening game of this series, a game won by the Pirates. And he's batting from his strong side, the left side.
These guys aren't in sync right now at all.
Again, this is Susak catching, not Posey. Posey's at first. Breaking ball swung on and missed, 0-2.
What are you doing here as a hitter right now? I'm going fastball in, Crucky, as a pitcher.
Well, you know, 2 strikes, 0-2, bases loaded. You're just trying to protect. And, you know, you have to have a feeling that, you know, if I put it in play, we're going to score another run with only 1 out. Although there were times when I went up and said, oh, boy, here comes a double play, which probably not a good thought process. But when you're not swinging it good, that comes into your head. But Neil Walker's been okay to let, you know, again, you're always trying to shoot it the other way, regardless in this situation. But
that's a challenge right here, though, is that they're not in sync. He's shaking off everything.
You look around at the defenders, you saw Posey in a crouch like he's catching, but like none of the players have moved in a few minutes.
Fastball in.
Upstairs, ball 1. This feels like one of these situations where, I mean, the ball game could hang in the balance here in the first inning.
Absolutely.
No question.
Can Vogelsong minimize the damage, or will the Pirates have themselves a big first inning?
I think it goes back to the curveball.
Did, and it's fouled back. Still 1-2.
See, the problem was that that wasn't a good pitch. He knew it. He wanted to throw that ball below the strike zone. This is a curveball. You've got him to chase 2 kind of up. Now I want to finish this ball below the zone, and that ball's kind of middle.
Yeah, he's lucky that thing's not in a gap somewhere.
He's going back to another curveball. Now he's going to try and bounce this one.
Bounced it down and in.
Let's look at the pitches already. 23 pitches.
Yeah. One out.
I think Bruce Bochy right now would be happy if he got out of this with just 30 pitches.
Now I think, again, I'm going to go back in with the lefty. I'm going to finish him fastball in right here. Or try to. But the key for me right now, he's got to pick the pitch instead of try and throw it hard.
It does look like anytime he's trying to come in with the, especially to the lefty right here, Neil Walker, it seems like everything's up and running away.
A run in, bases loaded, just 1 out.
Going back to the curveball.
Yanked into right field, a base hit. 1 run will score, as everybody have to wait and see if that ball would drop. Good at bat for Walker, and a 2-0 lead for the Pirates.
Well, one of the things that young pitchers in the big leagues learn, and you need to understand, is it's not about throwing a breaking ball for a strike. It's about throwing a good breaking ball. That's the 4th or 5th curveball. You saw that at bat. You can't. I don't think you can throw that pitch for a strike in that situation. I think you got to be down below the zone or bounce. Even if a guy isn't a good curveball hitter, if you show him 3 or 4 curveball strikes, you're going to make contact, Rocky.
Yeah, and that's, if you're the Pirates, it's unlucky. You hit the ball so hard that, one hot Marlin Bird out in right field, and all the runners had to hold.
A lineup with a lot of depth. Hitting 7th, Pedro Alvarez, another hot hitter. Hitting .395 in his last 13 games. Always a power threat. He's got 19 home runs on the season. And the Giants bullpen is up here in the first inning.
I don't want to. The word blame is kind of heavy, but these guys are not in sync. Susak has not put the right. They're shaking off 3 or 4 times every pitch.
High in the air to left field. Aoki circling underneath it. Tagging in third, Ramirez, and he will easily come into score. Sac fly makes it 3-0.
Well, having been in this situation, the thing that's going through your mind right now is that's it. Those are all the mistakes I can make tonight. That's all they can get. I've got to make my pitches from here on out.
3 runs in, 2 on, 2 out. And the batter now, Francisco Cervelli. And how about the number 8 hitter, Cervelli, hitting over 300 on the season? He's had a great year, a .303 batting average.
Well, aren't most 8th hitters in the National League getting over 300?
370 on base. First year really as a full-time catcher in the major leagues, and he has made the most of his opportunities.
Yeah, another guy, after losing Russell Martin to the Toronto Blue Jays, Russell Martin was a no-nonsense, this is the way the game's played. And, they needed that energy guy to come in to replace Russell Martin, and Cervelli's been a great fit right now for the Pirates.
Look at this break from second. And a ground ball hit to short, charging Crawford. He'll flip it the short way to end the inning. But 3 runs across for the Pirates off a struggling Vogelsong here in the first. SFN presented by Taco Bell. With John Kruk and Kurt Schilling, I'm Dan Schulman. Welcome back to PNC Park. A 3-0 lead for the Pirates as we go to the top of the second. Pittsburgh trying to make it 3 out of 4 in the series. So Francisco Liriano's offense provides him with a bit of a cushion early, and for Bruce Bochy, some concern. He had Yusmeiro Petit up in the pen in the first inning. Not a good inning at all for Vogelsong. The Giants just trying to stay as close to the Dodgers as they can before the reinforcements come back. And we'll talk about some of the injured players and when they may be back. They've got a series with the Dodgers coming up just over a week from now.
You want to go out right now if you're Nelson, if you're Francisco Liriano, and put up a dominant shutdown inning, not just a shutdown inning.
There's Andrew Susac, the catcher, hitting in the 5 spot for the Giants. Brandon Crawford and Kelby Tomlinson coming up behind him. Susac just came off the DL on Monday, was out with a thumb injury. There are a number of teams you can look around and say, boy, this team has been decimated at times by injuries. The Giants are definitely on the list, and one of the guys that Bruce Bochy misses the most is Hunter Pence, a guy who means so much to the Giants team on the field, in the dugout, in the clubhouse, and he's been on the DL 3 separate times this year. And he's on the DL right now with a strained oblique.
And here's your telltale slider now. First big one.
Bounced in 2-2.
Yeah, when all these guys come off the disabled list, I mean, you look at the Giants lineup with the, Aoki, Panic, Duffy. There's talk of maybe possibly Marlon Byrd playing center field, Pence in right, Aoki in left. You're looking at a lot stronger offense than what he can throw out there right now.
The Giants are in a stretch of 26 consecutive games against plus 500 teams, and so far in that stretch they are 7-9. Still to come after this game tonight. They go home, they face the Cubs for 3, then the Cardinals for 3, and then they go to LA. Bounced in again, a full count.
It might seem like a little thing, but look at the difference in tempo. When Cervelli gives it, he's given 1 or 2 signs. Liriano gets the sign, makes the pitch, keeps the flow. Back-to-back changeups right there. I think he probably is, he's going to go fastball and try and freeze him.
Missed down and in for ball 4. Let's take a look at some of the injuries the Giants have been dealing with this year. Let's start with the pitching staff, where Tim Hudson, Tim Lincecum remain on the DL. Mike Leake made 1 start for the Giants, was on the DL. Now he's come back off the DL. And in terms of position players, we talked about the loss of Hunter Pence and how difficult that is for the Giants. Also, Joe Panik is on the DL. Angel Pagano's been out with a bad knee. Aoki just got back. Susac just got back. That's a lot to deal with, Kruk, especially at this point of the season.
Yeah, when we talked to Bruce Bochy, he said, of all times to be without Panic and Pence, he said probably the toughest part of our schedule is this road trip, and here we are showing up without 2 of our better hitters.
But as we said off the top of the show, if we don't know anything else, we should have learned by now, never count out the Giants.
No.
And again, if they could win tonight, they're just a half game out of first in the National League West. Even a loss would leave them 1.5 back of the Dodgers, who lost again today. Dodgers had a 2-1 lead going to the 9th at Houston, gave up a run in the 9th and then a run in the 10th. Houston beat them 3-2. So the Dodgers just a game up. And look at Arizona. The Diamondbacks won again today. They are hot. They are over 500. They're 5 games out of first place. Slow roller to second, and the Pirates will still turn it.
Well, we heard about Clint Hurdle say Jordy Mercer right now might be a defensive replacement at shortstop for Jung Ho Kang, but the one thing you would see, you watch him play enough, Kang that is, and you see that he's very athletic. That's why he can play anywhere in the infield, but he does possess a great arm. And Neil Walker this year, to me, has really played some great defense for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Kelby Tomlinson swinging at the first pitch, and he bangs one into center field for a base hit. This is the guy who has been filling in for Joe Panik with Panik on the DL. 25 years of age, 12th round pick out of Texas Tech back in 2011. Hit over 300 at AA and AAA this year, and he's hitting well over 300 with the Giants the last couple of weeks.
Just to go back to that injury thing you're talking about, I think when you talk about experience, I think it's one of the things that experience gives you is you know you're going to have injuries, and you don't panic. And I don't think the Giants by any stretch panic because they have players that they can come up and fill roles.
Here's Gregor Blanco. Started in center field and not batting 8th. Hitting 291 on the season.
I got to ask, Crucky, as a hitter, when you got a guy who has a wipeout pitch, he doesn't throw for a strike, be it a split or this kind of a slider, how do you approach that at bat?
Should have swung at that first one.
Okay. Right. So
you saw what happened with Crawford. Crawford took a fastball and ends up hitting into double play because this isn't going to be a good one to hit.
Just missed the outside edge at 96, and it's a ball and a strike.
You know, there are sometimes I can speak from experience with a pitcher like a Liriano, a guy that had a good fastball and a lefty that had a good slider. Sometimes you just get lucky by taking a pitch. And I think right there, Blanco got lucky.
Now he wants him to chase the slider right here.
But he wouldn't. Liriano wanted the call, but it's ball 2.
Tony Randazzo is not a real fan of that either. You saw the body language from Liriano, which was a little off, but that's where Cervelli comes in. He's got to have the conversation. If the umpire's going to get mad, let him get mad at me, the catcher, not the pitcher.
Here's where they're going to have to come more center of the plate. Well, besides that first pitch, that's a pretty good at bat.
Yeah.
He's thrown a couple.
Yep. Borderline.
And like you said, sometimes you take pitches and you hope they call it a ball. Because he couldn't have hit those two.
No, and they were balls. They were just out of the zone.
Oh, just inside for ball 4.
That's a strike. But again, look at you can see, watch the setup. Great pitch. I think it's a tough pitch to call and make.
So if nothing else for the Giants, they can get the pitcher spot out of the way here this inning as Vogelsong steps in.
One of the things you love and rely on a good catcher is the little things. Look at the conversation. He's not turning around facing him. He's just kind of in the course of things having a conversation. Now he's not happy with the answer. You can tell by the way he acted, and the umpire knew it. Randazzo knew it. And that's what you're supposed to do as a catcher. Keep a pitcher from doing stupid stuff. Keep him in the game and get him focused.
Tomlinson the lead at second to Blanco at first, 2 down. And that one will get through Cervelli, and the runners will advance.
Good pitch.
K-Zone had that as a strike.
That's a good pitch.
Looked like. Called it a ball, but wow.
And he's frustrated right now. Cervelli's frustrated. It's his fault this ball gets by. He tried to give him a frame, kind of boxed a little bit, but that shouldn't matter.
And a pass ball will allow the runners to advance and send Cervelli out to the mound.
Now that was nothing more than a, hey, you're making the pitches right now. I'll get him going. I'll get him in line. I'll get him to calling. And he'll say something coming back, looking down, because that's the time he gets to talk to him. There you go. Yeah, see, he's not happy. Cervelli's mad right now that Randazzo's not calling strikes.
Outside, ball 2.
I mean, here, though, if you're Francisco Liriano, here's where you have to say, you know what? All right, if he's not going to give me borderline pitches, I have to come over the center of the plate. You got to remember, you have the pitcher hitting right here.
And this time, on a pitch that may not have looked like a strike, it is called a strike, and it's 2-2.
And I can tell you from experience, the challenge right now is that when you get the umpire chasing the strike zone,
you start to see balls as strikes, strikes as balls, and neither side knows which is which.
I'm pretty sure both pitchers and both catchers have no idea right now what the strike zone is.
But what I have to do now is make you swing for a strike.
Well,
and that's how, but I'm saying that's how my pitch selection now is based on making you swing that slider down and around your feet for a strike, because I'm not going to count on the call. That one.
It's a pretty good take right there by both.
That was a real good pitch too. I think he just struck him out. He just couldn't swing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sometimes you make such a good pitch you can't swing at it.
You can see the ongoing conversation back there too with Cervelli and Randazzo.
Bases loaded. Cervelli out to the mound, and now Ray Searage, the pitching coach, is on his way out as well.
Yeah, and you can see him looking at Searage. Cervelli's looking at Searage, and I think he's saying, so this is a lot more of a, hey, you're making some pitches, just stay right there. Cervelli's telling him, hey, listen, I'll get him. You just make the pitches hit the glove. Because as a pitcher, I always felt like I had the best view. And I knew, for the most part, I knew when I wanted to get a ball called a strike or vice versa. But you know, now again, you're going to see a catcher, he's frustrated. And he's trying to talk to the umpire. When he doesn't say anything, that's when the umpires know that they're mad. But this is the game within the game that young catchers take so long to learn. We got to learn these guys and their tendencies.
So 3 walks in the inning. There was a double play ball behind Liriano. Also a base hit. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Back to the top of the order for Aoki, who breaks his bat. It's a little soft liner that is caught by Walker, the second baseman, cutting behind Alvarez, and the inning is over. Good thing Walker was there beyond the reach of Alvarez, and the Giants leave him loaded. SFN from PNC Park. Dan Shulman, Kurt Schilling, John Kruk, 3-0 The Pirates lead the Giants. Buster only off this week. He'll rejoin us next week in Los Angeles when we bring you the Dodgers and the Cubs. Francisco Liriano, the pitcher, leads it off and looks at a strike. Liriano has been hot lately. He is 3 for 7 in his last 3 games. 1 hits a double, 1 is a home run. But he hit out against the Dodgers. He was using A.J. Burnett's bat at the time. He doesn't have his own bats. He just picks up somebody's. August the 8th, it was Burnett's, and he hit it out down the left field line. Clint Hurdle says that Liriano hits home runs like crazy in batting practice, and he's been begging him, just hit 1 in a game, would you? And then Liriano went out and did it as he hits a fly ball to left for out. 1 down. A.J. Burnett, meanwhile, not only serving a purpose by supplying a bat for Francisco Liriano, but also, guys, they're hoping to get him back this season. He's got that the flexor tendon injury. It might be the last year of his career, but he is throwing, and he hopes to get back on the mound and make 3 or 4 starts in September for the Pirates.
And that could be big because you know, he was having a really good year till he got hurt. Made the All-Star team for the first time in his career, and you know, he's one of those guys that you know what you're going to get with him. He's going to give you everything he's got. A veteran pitcher, you know, and you know, we're happy for him that you know, his career didn't end with injury, and he's going to get to throw a ball to finish his career, hopefully.
Yeah, and where he's at in his career is the reason I'm unsure about when he's going to come back. Normally, I'd say, you know what, there's almost no shot of him being back before mid-September. But at this point where he says might be his last year, he may only throw a couple simulated games and be ready to take the ball for a start, because it'll be September. They'll have the expanded roster and the expanded bullpen.
Polanco drills the ball deep right field and high off the Clemente wall. Second hit of the night for Polanco. He's headed to third and is safe at third with a triple. Boy, how different is this guy from the times we saw him earlier this season?
It's all confidence, but you know, watch this ball. It's a changeup by Vogelsong. It's just down. But watch this ball off the wall. Marlon Byrd played this perfectly. Knew he wasn't going to catch it in the air. He gave himself enough room, but it hit the wall and it kicked to his left, and so he had to go chase. If it kicks back to him, it's only a double for Polanco. But because he saw it bounce away from Marlon Byrd, he turned on the Jets, and you'll get those long legs, those long strides. Just slides in safe. And
if Duffy catches that at the bag, is he out?
I don't know why Duffy came out so far to get that ball. He didn't stay anchored on the base.
You watch how far up the line he took that throw, and I think the throw was on line too. If he's at the bag, he's out.
Yeah, Polanco just slid past him.
Yep.
The infield now in for the Giants. The batter Starling Marte reached on a fielder's choice and scored in the first.
And Dan, that's what I was saying. Look at the tempo. Right, he's giving him 3 or 4 signs: shake off, shake off, shake off.
As soon as someone gets on base, it becomes.
One hopper out to second, and with the infield in, Polanco can't risk it. 2 down.
Where do you take this throw at? It's on line, right?
Well, you got to take it on the base,
okay.
straddling the base, and just drop the tag down on Polanco or whoever's coming in. But you know, I think Duffy thought that maybe he was going to short hop him, so he came up to get it. But it actually would have been a perfect
throw,
relay throw, right on the base.
Kind of an in-between hop, though, but that ball would have beat him by a good mark. I thought he was going to get thrown out by a lot.
Yeah, it was a good slide actually by Polanco to once he passed Duffy just to reach back for the base. Didn't give him a chance to tag his body up high.
So 2 down and a runner at third for Andrew McCutchen, and all he's done this year is lead the majors in batting average with runners in scoring position at .387.
You got to know your stuff here as a pitcher, and your catcher has to know what you can do. I don't throw this guy a fastball in this at bat. No reason to with 2 outs. Oh.
I'm not throwing him a fastball here because that's the pitch he's always hunting. This is the at-bat he's comfortable in, and I can't throw the ball by him. So I'm going to I might throw a couple pitches to set up an at-bat later in the game, but I'm all right with him walking.
2-0 changeup, popped up into right field.
That was a great pitch.
And the triple will be stranded. Vogelsong gets out of it. Still 3-0 at the end of 2. By Taco Bell is brought to you by Choice Hotels. You always have a choice. Great lineup of action coming your way this week on ESPN. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. The Cardinals and the Diamondbacks, as mentioned, the D-backs are hot. They're just 5 out of first right now in the NL West. The Cardinals, the leaders of the National League Central, of course. Then the Cubs are at the Giants Wednesday night. And 1 week from tonight will be at Dodger Stadium as the Cubs take on L.A. St. Louis won today, beat San Diego. So Pittsburgh 4 back. The Cubs won 6.5 back. And right now the Pirates and the Cubs with a pretty healthy lead over the Giants in the wild card race. So you never say never. And the Giants are playing the Cubs this week. But realistically, Crucky, if you're the Giants or if you're a Giants fan, you're thinking hang close with the Dodgers and then try to beat them head-to-head and win the division.
Yeah, and you mentioned it in the open at 9-3 against the Dodgers this year. And they have a belief that they can beat the Dodgers in head-to-head, and they've proven it. And they just think if they keep it close enough, head-to-head, they can hopefully they can overtake them.
First pitch swinging and another base hit for Matt Duffy. He's 2 for 2.
Well, the impressive thing about that wasn't just first pitch swinging. First pitch fastball away, first at bat, he lines up all to right. That's a changeup, little up, but he still stayed back. I mean, you're looking fastball there, right? As a hitter?
Yeah, first at bat, or first pitch of the at bat, you got Buster Posey coming up behind you.
So how do you barrel a changeup like that?
Well, probably why he's hitting over 300.
Here's Buster Posey, fly ball to center his first time up.
And he went fastball in his first at bat. He's probably going to start him fastball away here, but he can't overthrow it. The only pitch I've seen Liriano get Posey to chase as a bad ball was the slider, and that was with 2 strikes. I haven't seen him be able to make Buster go out of the strike zone before he gets 2 strikes on almost anything. He's probably going to, he's going to go change up here.
To left center field. Running it down to McCutcheon. Duffy 3/4 of the way to second, now back to first. Now, we mentioned the Giants got some good news on the out-of-town scoreboard today. Crucky, I think you said you were in the clubhouse as the Giants were watching this. This is in the 9th inning. Kenley Jansen gives up a base hit to Marvin Gonzalez. Carlos Correa scores to tie the game. And then in the 10th inning, Jason Castro with an opposite field game-winning home run. Barely over the left field wall off Chris Hatcher. And the Astros beat the Dodgers 3-2. The Dodgers have lost 5 in a row.
Had some frustrations late in that game. Yasiel Puig got thrown out in the top of the 9th on disputing a a strike call on him.
The appeal, he went around. Giants and Dodgers head to head. Giants up 9-3. 3 games in LA end of this month. 4 games in San Francisco Monday through Thursday, the final week of the regular season. And that quite possibly, of course, could decide the National League West. And there may only be one playoff spot between the two of them, the way that the 3 teams in the National League Central are playing right now. 0-2 to count on Marlon Bird.
We got the Cubs, what, 20 games over 500? Yep. 6.5 out in 3rd place.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if, say, the Pirates and Cubs play in the wild card game. You could have, Jake Arrieta and Garrett Cole, or you could have Francisco Liriano and John Lester, and the winner of that then has to go play the Cardinals, who have the best record of baseball.
Yeah, you don't want to have to throw. You want to be able to pick when your ace throws instead of having the game pick.
Pirates, of course, have been in the wild card game each of the last 2 years. They beat Cincinnati 2 years ago, then lost to St. Louis in 5 in the division series. They lost to the Giants in this ballpark last year. That was the beginning of Madison Bumgarner's historic October run.
We were talking about this today. You look around the races, the Central is to me the old AL East. But yeah, you end the season today. Who's the most valuable player in the National League?
I mean, a month ago that would have been an easy answer. Bryce Harper was lapping the field, and he's still got incredible numbers. Brandon Crawford's had a really good year, and he'll get some. He might not get any first place votes, but he'll get some votes. Posey will get some votes. McCutcheon,
Rizzo gets some votes.
I'm going with Rizzo today.
A lot of baseball still to be played.
Yes, indeed. And September is going to decide this whole thing. The races and the MVP races, Rookie of the Year races.
That's some fun numbers there.
Look at Goldschmidt's numbers, and he's actually struggled since the All-Star break. But
now that's a story. If the Diamondbacks were to come back and make the playoffs, wow,
5 games out.
Yeah,
with 40 to go.
Yep.
They're athletic, and they got some athletes on that team. And Goldschmidt just stole his 20th base, so he's a 20-20 guy.
Swing and a miss to get Bird, 2 down. Now, Clint Hurdle was talking to us about the difference between Arizona when they played them early in the season and just last week, how much improved they are, how they get after it offensively, how athletic they are. Maybe like Texas in the American League. Texas is in a playoff position right now in the American League. Arizona's not, but they're sneaking up on some people.
There's a kid, too, that they have a lot of good young position players. Braden Shipley's a kid in the minor leagues for the Diamondbacks who I love, and I think has a potential to be a one. Could be in the big leagues a little sooner now that they're making it interesting.
The thing I like about them is when you watch them play, and it started with Kirk Gibson and his staff there with basically no nonsense. This is the way you play the game. There's a right way and a wrong way and no in between way, but they play hard.
Yeah.
And like Clint Hurdle said, they play for 9 innings as hard as anyone they've had.
Andrew Susac, the batter.
I always like the thought of, if you're going to lose, make sure the team that beat you know they played you. Because even if you're a struggling team, you can have your own little pennant races in September by knocking teams out or by making it a situation where teams weren't expecting to, or they were expecting to roll over you.
Two and one on Susac. 3-0 Pirates. The Giants batting here in the top of the 3rd.
I know it's just the top of the 3rd, but this hasn't been a crisply pitched game. They're behind hitters, and for a defender, this is not a whole lot of fun.
But here's the thing. This is when Danny, you were talking about stuff. The difference in stuff. When you have stuff, you can go 3 innings, throw about 50% strikes, and still have zeros. When you don't have 95, 96, you can go 3 innings and have that same stuff and be down 3-0.
He's given up 3 hits and 3 walks already through 2 2/3, but unscored them. Count now will run full.
But he's got a fastball that makes you chase balls, and that's the difference.
Duffy will be on the move from first with 2 down. A full count on Susac. It's sharply right at Gong at short. And plenty of arm to get Susac and end the inning. Another man left on by the Giants. Still 3-0 Pittsburgh. Pirates lead. They've won 2 of the first 3 in this series. And it'll be their 4, 5, and 6 hitters. Aramis Ramirez, Jung Ho Gong, and Neil Walkers facing Ryan Vogelsong. Ramirez walked and scored in the first.
The last time we had Ryan Vogelsong, he got kicked out, didn't he? For arguing balls and strikes.
Yep. And I think Phil Cuzzy was the home plate umpire that night. He's the second base umpire tonight.
A lot of Z's in the umpiring crew tonight.
Randazzo at the plate. Cuzzy out at second.
Good man, Phil Cuzzy. Does a lot of work with ALS. Fundraising.
Well, Crucky, we talked a little bit, as Vogelsong, another close miss, we talked a little bit about the depth the Pirates now have. With Josh Harrison back, Jordy Mercer now back. We're going to see Ramirez, Gong, and Walker coming up this inning. Those 3, plus Harrison, plus Mercer. How do you see Clint Hurdle mixing and matching?
Well, I think, you know, it's again, it's going to be on the player. Like, you might want to give Aramis a day off here and there. So if you do, you can put Harrison at third, or, you know, a tough lefty. Neil Walker doesn't hit well right-handed. You know, perhaps you could have Aramis Ramirez at first and Josh Harrison at second, and Jordy Mercer at short, and move Gong to third.
Fly ball to center. And Ramirez retired.
But you know, that old theory of, you know, you can't lose your starting position due to injury. Well, Clint Hurdle just kind of said, well, you know, I'm going with the hottest players, and, you know, right, look, you can't take Gong out of the lineup. He has to be playing somewhere, whether it be third, short, second, wherever. And he might be that guy like Josh Harrison was, who can also play, you know, the corner outfield or the outfield positions. You know, Gong might be that guy that wherever you need him that day, that's where he plays. He could be an everyday utility player.
One of the things Clint Hurdle has said about Harrison is he's committed. He understands the situation, and Harrison brings versatility and energy, obviously. And if he's willing to accept, I could be in, I could be out, I could be anywhere, It just makes the Pirates that much deeper and better. And Mercer, do you think mainly a defensive replacement at shortstop right now?
Yeah, I think right now, yeah, because, yeah, like I said, you can't take Gung out of the lineup, and he's going to get some starts against some lefties. Jordy Mercer is, you know, to spell Neil Walker. But, you know, I that's the thing with the Pirates. They're similar to the Giants, and he was handcuffed to left fielder.
Gone with a hard sinking liner to left field, short hopped by Aoki, and another base hit for Gong.
Now here's his timing mechanism, and Jung Ho Gong. You know, you watch how this big leg kick that he has, and there's the pitch. It's a fastball. You know, Vogelsong not getting the call down and away. He came inside. Now, watch his leg kick.
Now what is he timing that?
That
front foot. What's he trying to do?
You're timing everything off the fastball. You want it to get down before it reaches the front lines of the batter's box, before it gets to home plate. Once that's down, then it's just all systems go, and he times it per time. He can time a fastball perfectly. He hit 2 yesterday. Well, he hit a hanging slider from Cantos or Cutter for the game winner.
Sorry, Clark. Gong was the first position player to come directly from Korean professional baseball to the major leagues without playing in the minors in the United States. There seemed to be a lot of, well, nobody's quite sure how his great numbers in Korea will translate to Major League Baseball here. He was signed to a 4-year, $11 million deal. That deal is going to be one of the bargains of baseball.
Yes, and you know, Dan, one of the things about youth baseball right now is you have so many people now, these hitting gurus, that don't want kids to stride anymore. Just, you know, get a load on your back leg and, you know, don't stride. And, you know, they've basically taken the leg kick away. But, you know, you look at some of the teams in Little League that do have the leg kick, and, you know, it's all timing. I mean, you can't tell a kid, you know, spread out and don't stride. Your timing will be better, because to me this was easier to time than anything. You know, I had a similar leg kick, and it was easier for me to time it that way. And you see it. It's just, you know, he gets his foot down. Once he gets his foot down, he's the same as every other hitter. The hands are in a great hitting position. The bat's flying through the strike zone, and the ball's coming off his bat really good.
Oh, the challenge for me watching, especially young player, there's no one way to do this stuff. And any coach that tells you have to do X, Y, and Z is you got to go somewhere else. That's not this game. There's so much. You look at that swing and you think about a guy like Jeff Bagwell or Frank Thomas. All the other stuff is superfluous. It doesn't matter. It's when you make contact.
Jeff Bagwell actually
stepped back.
He took his stride backwards, which was, I used to love watching it. Sometimes though at first base I caught myself looking at his feet, not where the barrel was coming through.
Didn't Jim Edmonds just the heel came up and the heel came down?
Yeah.
The foot never even moved?
And that's the way a lot of guys are teaching how to hit now. Just do it that way.
I remember Chipper Jones did like a double toe tap.
Yeah.
Ball 4 to Walker.
Well, I think since the first inning, these two have had a lot of difficulty getting on the same page, being in sync, getting the tempo going. And when you got to shake 4 or 5 times, sometimes you'll do that to mess a hitter up, but this is almost every at bat with runners on. He's going through every single sign. And he gave him the same pitch a couple different times, and then you got Righetti saying, "Hey, listen, you're not got to go through the ball. That whole kind of wave in the front. Keep yourself into the lane, throw through that the doorway, so to speak, because he's a fastball guy who's not commanding his fastball."
Pedro Alvarez is the batter. So, Schill, you've got a veteran pitcher and a young catcher. Does that mean it's up to the catcher to figure it out and adjust to what the pitcher wants?
Well, when in this situation, it's Ryan Vogelsong's game to quarterback. He's got to manage it. Before the game plan is this, and this, and it doesn't seem like Susak knows where to go after a first shake. He's kind of running through all the pitches. To me, it's the pitcher that's got to make that happen.
Fouled back by Alvarez, a ball and a strike. Alvarez with a sac fly back in the first inning, his 63rd RBI on the season. The defense has not been great at first base, moved from third to first this year, but the bat has been so good lately that definitely against righties. Alvarez will be in there at first base, may start against some lefties as well. They do have other options. We haven't mentioned guys like Michael Morse and Sean Rodriguez on the Pittsburgh bench as well. An opportunity to really blow it open here in the bottom of the third. for the second time tonight, guys, there was activity in the Giants pen. It was Yusmeiro Petit up in the first.
I think this is recognition. This is the game. I think
Wow.
if you're Brian Vogelsong, you know this is the game.
You wouldn't expect to see Contos in the third inning.
He's been like their sixth, seventh inning guy. And, Yusmeiro Petit's been their long guy. Contos pitched 2 innings yesterday, didn't he?
There for a strike. And Pedro Alvarez does not like the call, but he strikes out 2 down.
That was a good pitch. Pedro Alvarez has no reason to complain about this one. It's just a changeup. I think he might have got distracted a little bit by Young taking it.
Exactly
I used to hate that as a hitter. I don't care if you steal. Go ahead and steal. But don't take 3 or 4 steps like you're going to steal and then stop.
Especially third base.
Yeah, as a hitter, especially a left-handed hitter with a right-handed pitcher, he's right in your sights. The runner on second.
Cervelli the batter. Contos, by the way, went an inning and 2/3 yesterday, gave up the game-winning home run to Starling Marte through 19 pitches in that hour.
I think that if you're the Giants, you'd want to hop on a plane tonight and feel good about the road trip, and the only way to do that is to win this ball game.
It's the thing. If you're the Giants, you have to think. We've had chances. We need someone needs to come up with one big hit.
Look at this now. Javier Lopez is up. Bruce Bochy, who's going to go to the Hall of Fame as a manager. Obviously he's feeling a sense of urgency right now. He's managing this like it's the 6th or 7th inning, not the 3rd inning. Not wanting to let this game get away. They do have an off day tomorrow. Rolled foul, 1-2. They are in a pennant race, and he knows it, and they're in a tough stretch of their schedule. And they are battling to win every game they can. The Dodgers lost earlier today to Houston. The Giants are just a game back.
Well, they talk about scoreboard watching and what it means. I think this is an example of how the scoreboard. I don't think they're panicking, but I think they saw the Dodgers lose. This is a big game for them.
Slashed foul down the right side.
Trying to get a fastball in there and left it middle down.
And then to play devil's advocate, what I said earlier about the Giants need one big hit. If they get one big hit yesterday, they blow that game open against Garrett Cole. But Garrett Cole proved what an ace was yesterday. He didn't give them a chance. Once they got runners on base, he jumped up to 98, 99 miles an hour with the fastball, and that slider got a lot better.
Oh, the Pirates won without leaving a guy on. No men left on base.
Yeah,
that's usually a perfect game, isn't it? Or a no-hitter.
The Giants left a small village on.
Well, for those of you who have been watching the Little League World Series, and so many people have, they've just gone to final at Williamsport. Pennsylvania defeating South Carolina 9-8. Crucky, I know you spent a couple of days there. Shill, I know you're going there.
Cole Wagner for Pennsylvania, wow, he hit 2 of the farthest balls I've ever seen a kid hit it. 12 or 13.
They need to change the dimensions of that field.
We're a couple hundred miles away from Williamsport here in Pittsburgh. The Pirates and the Giants. The Pirates, the leaders in the wild card race, 4 games back of the Cardinals in the NL Central. They've won 12 of their last 16. They got 3 in the first tonight off Ryan Vogelsong. The RBIs to Jung Ho Gong, Neil Walker, and Pedro Alvarez. And Vogelsong has been in and out of the fire all night long here tonight. He's given up 5 hits and 3 walks through 2 2/3. This could be worse than 3-0. The bullpen is up and ready if needed for the Giants. Chop left side. Charged by Duffy. Throw not in time. And the bases are loaded.
That's a good play all around. Matt Duffy did everything he could to get Cervelli. Once 2 strikes, you can move back. But, you see a righty. Once he reaches for that ball, his momentum's going to first base. And that's what helps Cervelli because, Duffy, a natural shortstop, and he did everything right on that play. Just give Cervelli credit for busting it down the line.
He gets down the line about as well as any catcher in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, you see it right there. No wasted movement, no extra step. Threw it off the correct foot. Just nothing he could do.
So here's Francisco Liriano, swing and miss at a first pitch curveball.
You know what ends up being cool about that play? The only guy that did something wrong was Cervelli swinging at a bad pitch, and he comes out of it as the guy with the best result because he busted his hump down the line.
We mentioned earlier, Liriano's been hot. A hit in each of his last 3 games. One of them a double, another one a home run. 2 off-speed pitches, and it's 0-2.
The old equalizer in it, Chill.
There's a lot of equalizers for pitches.
But 2 changeups, back-to-back changeups.
Well, when you're Ryan Vogelsong, you're high wiring tonight. You're doing it any way you can.
Only the Mets pitching staff has driven in more runs this year than the Pirates. Is this respect for Liriano?
Oh,
Not
no.
throwing him any fastballs?
Nope.
No?
This is just trying to get a strikeout. This is the hitter where with 2 outs, I know you're not going to mess around, but if you're trying to feel something, you might do it here. I want to feel my curveball, get my curveball down, or throw a good changeup and finish.
The 1-2. Bouncer foul. Been a lot of high-stress pitches in this game for Ryan Vogelsong.
Well, since pitch 1. This is one of those nights when he's going to be tired no matter how many innings he goes.
Just hasn't been any pace to this game on either side. It's
no
just
tempo.
trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, I think on this side of things, it's these two not being on the same page. On the other side, it's Liriano's inability to command his fastball and work deep counts. Having said that, if Ryan Vogelsong can find a way to go 6 innings and give up 3 runs, this is one of those outings you walk away and feel good about yourself. Because you give your team a chance to win in a night when the train could have run off the tracks at any moment.
What would lead you to believe that he can get through 6?
Oh, yeah. When you're out there with the ball in your hand, you believe you can get through 9. But this is the biggest thing.
Pitcher doing most of the talking in that conversation.
Yeah.
Well, young catcher, veteran pitcher. Is that more of a?
I think Vogelsong.
Here's what I want to do.
I think Vogelsong was asking him for a suggestion.
Got him swinging on the curveball to end the inning as the Pirates leave him loaded. They've left 6 on through 3. They still have a 3-0 lead on Vogelsong and the Giants. Above, courtesy of our blimp cam tonight. 3-0. The Pirates lead the Giants. We go to the top of the fourth here on Sunday Night Baseball. Francisco Liriano for the Pirates. Ryan Vogelsong for the Giants. The Pirates have 6 hits. Vogelsong has walked 3, but they only have 3 runs. The Pirates have left 6 men on. The Giants have left 5 men on through 3 kind of strange innings so far here tonight. Brandon Crawford having a terrific year. Shows bunt, takes a strike. Crawford has some of the best offensive numbers of any shortstop in baseball this year. And Crucky, the defense is a given really with this guy.
Yeah, without question, one of the best defenders at the shortstop position. But you know, the power and the run production starting to come for him, and makes him more of a complete player.
Fouled off his foot. 0-2.
Talking about like a Gold Glove, kind of a once in a generational kind of defensive shortstop with 20-25 home run power. Yeah. That's like Cal Ripken back in the day.
Well, and you asked about National League MVP.
Yep.
I'm not sure Crawford.
He's got to get votes,
but yeah,
absolutely.
He's going to finish in the top 10,
and he should.
Yeah.
And I think if we gave defense the weight it deserved in voting like that, he'd be in the top 5.
And Liriano strikes him out. Tomorrow night, join Mike Tirico and John Gruden for a showdown between the Bengals and the Bucs in his second preseason game. #1 overall pick, Jameis Winston, looks to prove he's ready to be the face of the Buccaneers. Monday Night Football, 8 Eastern on ESPN, and tomorrow on SportsCenter after the game. And tonight with John Abuchagrass and John Anderson as they break down the game and to bring you all the latest from the pennant races around Major League Baseball. Tomorrow at 11 Eastern. On ESPN. Just a couple of blocks from here in preseason NFL action. Shill's favorite team beat my favorite team.
Shill's favorite? No, I think they're the greatest franchise in sports history is how I phrased that earlier.
The Steelers beat the Packers 24-19. Bigger news, the Packers suffering a potentially serious injury to Jordy Nelson, their all-pro wide receiver. Why didn't we go? Why didn't the two of us get our act together and go see a football game today?
I had a lot of stuff going on. Look at that. Look at that. That's the promised land right there. Look at that. That's Holy Land.
Apparently you had so much stuff going on. You were late for the ride over.
Well, no, I wasn't late. You changed the time on me, and I didn't get
late.
the test. But I'm traveling with a companion, so I had to make sure she was all right before I left the hotel.
Your dog.
One of our dogs.
America, if you had any idea. Right, Crucky? If they had any idea.
Wow.
You don't get on Ellie.
You know, it's nauseating enough hearing him talk about every time we come to Pittsburgh, the greatest franchise. I go in the coach's room of the Giants, and Sean Dunston and Roberto Kelly were arguing who's a better franchise, Steelers or the Cowboys. Now Roberto's a Cowboy fan. Sean Dunston's a Steeler fan.
Well, Roberto's probably new to football then.
Tomlinson grounds out 2 down. Aerial coverage tonight provided by Goodyear with superior performing tires that knock it out of the park. Goodyear, more driven. Pretty good sports day if you're from Pittsburgh.
That's actually a really good analogy. The Steelers are kind of where the blimp is, and the rest of the world in the NFL is down where the stadium is.
Wow. Now Crucky, you're from, and I'm just going to talk to you, so he'll settle down for a second.
Yeah, right.
You're from West Virginia. Did you grow up a Steelers fan?
No.
Oh.
Who's your team?
You know, I didn't. My dad liked the Packers, so I kind of rooted for the Packers.
Now you're talking. Blanco with a base hit into center. Welcome.
You know how I am. I'm a real people person. So when growing up, when half of the people in my town rooted for the Colts, the Baltimore Colts, and then the other half rooted for the Redskins, I had to pick someone else just to upset everyone. And I'm good at that.
That was kind of like as a teammate. That's how you work.
Yeah. No, I was.
The 2 down in the inning. Here's Vogelsong.
Now that big hit right there by Blanco. That's huge. To get Vogelsong up with 2 outs. Top of the order coming up.
With the recognition, but now as a pitcher in the National League, you recognize this. He's going to the plate knowing, hey, he's giving me a chance. You want to make it up to him. You want to give him that 6. Even if it takes you 122 pitches.
Yeah.
Because he's showing confidence sending you back up there.
Yeah. And you know, it could have been a different story if there's first and third.
That's why hitting eighth
first and third, and third, one out.
Yep.
They might pinch hit for Vogelsong, but your chances, especially the way the Giants have swung the bats the last couple nights, the chances of scoring a run with just a guy in first and 2 outs have been limited for them. They've left a lot of people on base the last couple nights.
Contos is still up in the pen. He just threw a pitch, so he's still on standby in case he's needed next half inning if Vogelsong struggles. Oh, no, it's Petit back up again.
Wow, this is
musical chairs out on the Giants bullpen. It was Petit in the first. Contos and Lopez with men on base in the third, and now Petit
behind 3-0.
Well, you remember the conversation we had with Bochy today about letting his pitcher hit and then having him go out there in the next inning and having to go get him.
Yeah.
How bad he felt.
This would be a great spot for Bumgarner. But, and for people who don't know, Bumgarner's swinging the bat like a cleanup hitter right now. He's got 5 home runs this season. He's pinch hit twice in the past week, but it sounds like maybe word has come down from above that on the day he starts, let him go have his swings, and he's having his swings. But maybe the Giants are a little bit worried about Bumgarner getting hurt if he pinch hits on a frequent basis. But there's some nights, Rocky, he's the best option that Bruce Bochy may have on the bench.
Well, and some nights he's the best option they have in the lineup. And that's not taking anything away from
he's
the
good.
Giants there. He knows how to hit.
But it also speaks to a 3-0 score being about as much as they want to let it go.
Ground ball to short. Vogelsong retired and the inning is over. To the bottom of the 4th, it remains the Pirates 3 and the Giants nothing. .com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment, at any moment, with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at Bat now. We go to the bottom of the 4th. The Pirates lead the Giants 3-0. In between innings, we had a chance to visit with Giants manager Bruce Bochy. Boch, you've had 3 different relievers up so far tonight in support of Vogelsong. How tough are the decisions you're thinking of making right now?
Well, he's got great stuff. Just coming off the plate a little bit. That first inning, so critical for a starter. He usually throws a few pitches in that first one, trying to get settled in. And, I'm going to stay with him a little bit here, but he's on a short leash. He knows it. If I would have had a runner in scoring position there, I would have hit for him. But we'll see how it goes here this inning.
Boch, last couple games, you guys have yet to come up with a big hit. You've had men on base against Liriano, but nothing to show for it. Are they pressing down there a little bit?
Well, I think they may. Norrie swung the first pitch there, and he was having trouble throwing strikes. It's funny how it's contagious. At home, we couldn't not get a big hit, and on the road here, we're 4 for 40 something. And I do think they're pressing, and they're all trying to pick each other up, but I think they're trying a little too hard.
Boch, thanks for the time tonight.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Boch.
Bruce Bochy, the manager of the Giants. Gregory Polanco grounds out for the first out in the bottom of the fourth. 3-0 Pittsburgh. And the batter now, Starling Marte, who's 0 for 2. It's the first time tonight Polanco has been retired. Singled in the first, tripled in the second. A very confident team, the Pirates. A team getting healthier. A team that made some nice pickups at the trade deadline. A team that's been in the postseason each of the last 2 years. A team with a great home record. 43-20 here at home. Only the Cardinals have a better home record in all of baseball.
So if the season ended right now, Dan, the wild card game would be played in Pittsburgh because they have the better record than the Cubs right now.
It would be Cubs at Pirates with the winner playing the Cardinals, the team with the best record. Tough division, huh? Tough sled right now in the NL Central. And if the season ended today, the Mets would play the Dodgers in a division series.
Wow.
Harvey Kershaw.
Back it up with DeGrom and Greinke.
Then Syndergaard who?
I don't know. DeGrom might go 1. They can set it up. It's been outstanding.
And the Mets won again today. Logan Verrett pitched for the Mets today. They gave Harvey some extra time. Mets won. The Nationals also won. Anthony Rendon with a home run for the Nationals today, as they won 9-5 over Milwaukee. So the margin remains 5 games. The Mets leading the Nationals. Is there time, guys, for the Nats to figure it out?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there is. But can they? I still think that pitching staff, they have to have a run in them with that staff.
Line into left, a base hit for Marte. And that'll bring up Andrew McCutchen.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
Say the tough part about this right now is you got a guy that can kill anybody's fastball in the game with a guy who's having a little bit of trouble commanding his fastball. So you're going to need to get him to chase some breaking stuff, and I'm not sure.
Well, last at bat he got behind 2-0 and threw him a 2-0 changeup and got the fly ball to right field. I think right here, if he tries to start him off with a changeup, you know, this is one where McCutchen might say, you know what, I'm gonna try to sit on this one.
Started him with a fastball, but he missed low. There are the pitches he has hit out this year for his 18 home runs.
Middle in.
Stay out of the middle. And you got a guy with fastball command issues right now. Gonna go slider here.
Runner is going. Throw down on a bounce and not in time. Marte with his 25th stolen base on the season.
Starling Marte can absolutely fly it. You know, he had that false start his first time he was on base. This one here, there's no false start, and you know, even though the throw was bounced right there, they had no chance of getting him, no matter where that throw was. You saw where Tomlinson caught the ball. He caught that one after Marte was already on the base.
So a runner in scoring position now for McCutchen, a hitter's count.
And you got to keep him close here at second, too.
Yeah. That one was okay because he opened up a base and allowed me to do stuff. You can't do the next one. Can't let him get third.
See, that looked like he had it timed, too.
Well, here's what you know. 2-0 fastball, nowhere near a strike. He has not had the feel all night, so now I don't make a mistake. Yeah, that's the smart move right here. I think you go to the pen at this point.
And now the intentional walk. And here comes Bruce Bochy. He told us between innings Vogelsong was on a short leash, and he wasn't kidding. Just 3 1/3 for the Giants starter. Yusmeiro Petit will be coming in from the pen. Vogelsong good in his last 2, struggling from the outset tonight. ESPN presented by Taco Bell.
The best seats at every ballpark for every game. Visit MLB.com/tickets today.
Wow.
Well done.
That was flawless.
That was good.
You're that's big league now.
I've been practicing. You know, when I'm driving, I practice.
Show, you talked about it during break. You're a starting pitcher. You have the kind of outing that Vogelsong had tonight. What are the next 5 days like?
Miserable. Not within the context of the game. There is no more miserable 4 to 5 days. Added to the fact you went out to that mound and you knew the scoreboard said what it did. The Dodgers had lost. Everything's set up for you to be a guy to kind of end this road trip on a good note. Sometimes you just try and make it too much happen. But I feel for him.
Yusmeiro Petit pitched Thursday. A couple of shutout innings. Gave up 2 hits, struck out 4. This has been his job for a couple of years now for the Giants. Spot starter at times, but generally coming in early to middle of the game when the starter struggles. And Vogelsong struggled. 2 on, 1 out. Cleanup hitter Aramis Ramirez, the batter. And a fastball down and away for ball 1.
See a lot of stuff at the bottom half of the zone. Ground ball guy. Get some swings and misses. Looking for a double play right here.
Speed on for the Pirates. Ramirez pops one way up in the air on the right side. Infield fly rule in effect. 2 outs. But now a very hot hitter in Jung Ho Kang had 2 home runs yesterday. He has walked and singled here tonight.
You're watching on the center field shots when you see the base runner. The Giants are going first sign right now with the runner on second. Watch Marte's body language. If he does anything with his arms or hands or puts his hand out to one side or the other once the sign gets going, if he's watching. He's not even looking. Did you want to know pitch or location, Crutchy?
If they got it right.
Which one was more important?
Location to me. Yeah, I had a guy gave me. I got the signs. He got on second next at bat. He gave me the sign for a breaking ball, and the guy threw a lefty, threw a fastball right at my noggin. Kind of got out of the way late, waiting for the break.
Marte looks like he's more interested in just kind of trying to be disruptive.
Yeah, I think he is.
And it looks like he's messing around a little bit with Tomlinson and Gregor Blanco out in center field, like shooing Tomlinson away, like get away, I'm not going anywhere type of deal.
See, that's his first sign there is 2, and then this is a fastball away if he's staying first sign. See him pound on the inside corner.
He's setting up way too early.
Yep.
Well located fastball away.
Yeah, but you watch, we can go back to that right there. You know, he pounded the glove trying to get the sound to Gung that, okay, we're coming in, but then watch how early he sets up. I mean, it's a great pitch, but it had to be because he set up way too early with the runner on second. That's way too early to set up.
He wants fastball in here. No.
And Gung chases a breaking ball in the dirt to end the inning. So good job by Petit. End of 4. 3-0. The Pirates lead. Sunday Night Baseball coming your way from PNC Park in Pittsburgh. baseball, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors is celebrating August as the inaugural Play Ball Month. More than 125 city mayors are hosting play ball events. To learn more, go to playball.org and get out and play. We go to the top of the fifth. Pirates leading the Giants 3-0. Between innings, we had a chance to visit with Pirates manager Clint Hurdle. Clint, the Giants have had some chances, but Liriano's gotten out of it. What have you seen from him through 4 so far?
Rolled his sleeves up. He's doing a little yard work out there right now.
And what about the offense? We talked to you before the game. 1 through 8, you guys look like a pretty dangerous team right now.
We've been able to stretch some things out. Ramirez has come in the last 2 weeks. He's been really good for us. He's been a run producer throughout his career. We've got a bunch of other guys that can hit and hunt some at bats, battle some at bats. So it's worked out well offensively. We've been much better the second half.
We appreciate the time, Clint. Thanks.
Thank you.
You always hear a phrase you don't expect to hear when you talk baseball with Clint Hurdle. He's rolling up his sleeves and doing some yard work out there.
Translated to mean something.
Yeah, but what?
Right. That's another interview, I think.
We've got some guys hunting some at-bats, Clint Hurdle says as well. One of the reasons I think that maybe they exude the kind of confidence that they do is because of the confidence he shows. I mean, there's pretty...
Either that or they can't understand anything he's saying. It's just like, wow, that cleared our head.
Top of the order for the Giants in the fifth.
Tell you what, those first pitch and that third pitch right there, fourth pitch of this at bat, it's like Aoki's trying to take out someone in the Pirates dugout.
And Liriano's moved into Aoki's kitchen permanently.
They live in there.
Check swing, foul ball. He has some very interesting at-bats.
Well, you got to kind of expect that when you stand that close, as close to the plate as Aoki does. I mean, he's right on top of the plate, and Liriano has that ball that's running in on him. And I mean, I think both his feet were off the ground when he kind of check swung on that one. But that's what I mean. He has a unique ability to put the bat on the ball, and that's why he's so tough to strike out.
If you look at what is supposed to be the regular outfield for the Giants, Aoki, Pagan, and Pence, they have only started together as a trio 18 times this year. 16 of them with all of them in the outfield. In 2 of the games, 1 of them was the DH. That's how many injuries the Giants have had in the outfield. Aoki strikes out. He's 0 for 3.
Dan, I always found it tough to hit without either foot on the ground. But Aoki kind of jumped at that one a little bit. If you're Hensley Mullins, what do you say? Hey,
he's hitting 300.
Yeah,
right?
Aoki, you're hitting 300.
Yeah.
Keep your feet on the ground. Might be better.
Here's Matt Duffy. He's hitting over 300, and he's got 2 hits tonight. And he'll turn around and ask Tony Randazzo about the strike zone.
This is why you have to believe that Matt Duffy will be a guy that's going to continue to hit at the big league level. Look where his spray chart is at. It's a few infield hits, but evenly distributed everywhere. From the left field line to the right field line, a couple down, right down the first base line. So he will put it in play. He does spread it around. And Kurt, as a pitcher, when you have a guy that can do this, it's got to be a nightmare.
Well, here's what happened. When you have a guy with a spray chart like that, he takes what you give him. So for me, I'm going to give you fastballs away. You're not big enough to drive the ball out of the ballpark. I'm going to shift my defense, play you opposite, throw balls in the upper half of the strike zone and the outer half of the plate, and let you hit hard balls to right field.
Leads National League rookies with 126 hits on the season. And a little pop, too. 10 home runs for a guy who's listed at 6'2" and 170. So if he can put on a little weight, maybe the power will pick up as well. But he has definitely got to be in the conversation, as we mentioned earlier, along with guys like Gong and Chris Bryant for National League Rookie of the Year.
170.
Teammates call him Bones.
I weighed 170. I think an 8 for 8. You?
I graduated 160. I know you're going to find that hard to believe.
What?
I was a fleet-footed outfielder when I got drafted.
Did you say fleet-footed?
Well, I was. I said was.
No, I'm not saying. Good outfielder.
No.
Heck would have to. I'm not seeing flick for the part.
160.
What's the most number? You had some pretty decent steal numbers early in your career. Did you get 20 one year?
No, I had 18. Larry Bull wanted me to try to get 20. I had 20 homers, and I needed to like 3 or 4 more stolen bases to whatever. Ended up with 18, but I'd broken my toe, hit a foul ball up my toe, and he kept telling me to run. And I kept getting thrown out by further and further every time, so I just shut it down.
Ended up 18 for 40 stolen base. Larry Ball could be persuasive that way.
Go ahead, Crookie. You can do it. You can do it. Keep going. Just run. All right. Didn't work.
Until they tag you.
How about triples? Had a few back at the beginning.
I led the Phillies a few years in triples.
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
I was a good turf runner.
The guys in the truck tell us you had 8 triples in 1990 as Matt Duffy finds a hole, and he is 3 for 3.
Now he can run. But again, it's like what Kurt and I were talking about. He takes what the pitcher gives you. Look, first strike of the at bat was up and in. It was a ball, but it was called a strike. He got frustrated, but he didn't lose sight of his game plan. Look at that. There's the pitch up and away. He stays on top of. Look how he, little bit of raising up of his hands just to get on top. Watch his hands.
See, I'm mad because I wanted to hit that ball in the air.
Yeah, and he got on top of him to hit a hard ground ball between first and second. And
that's good hitting.
Here's Posey 0 for 2.
Oh, huge out. Huge.
Who wants it, and it drops in fair territory. And the throw to second skips into shallow left. And instead of a runner at first and 2 outs at first and third, 1 out. And the normally positive and adoring Pittsburgh crowd is booing right now as 3 Pirates allowed that ball to drop between them.
All right, talk to me, Croggy. What's here? What is this?
Look, Pedro Alvarez is holding him on. That ball right there is Neil Walker's, but we can't tell if Alvarez called for the ball. But here's another mistake. Look where Starling Marte is. He didn't move at all. He did not move. Once the throw got past Gung, Aramis Ramirez had to go get it. You know, that's when Starling Marte has to start creeping in and think there might be a throw to second base here. He was nowhere to be found, and Aramis Ramirez actually had to go get that ball. Not saying he could have kept Duffy away from third, but
it's got to be either a hit and an error or 2 errors.
That's where I got an issue with scoring. There's on no planet should that be a hit.
No. It's they've scored it right. We're told they've scored it a fielder's choice. Ball drops, they throw to second, so the guy, the hitter, Posey, safe at first on a fielder's choice. So it's a fielder's choice, and then E4 on Walker, allowing Duffy to go to
2
third.
errors.
Should there be a team? Is that where you'd like to see a team error? Right?
You don't give. No one gets an error when the ball doesn't get touched, but that doesn't mean that's not an error.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how that ever came into be a rule. Oh, it didn't touch his glove. Yeah, but 8 guys should have caught it. Pick one of the 8.
See if the Giants can take advantage of the break. Marlon Byrd, the batter.
This is now you're in a situation. There's that 1-1 pitch we talked about at the beginning of the game. 1-2 to 2-1 is the biggest count swing in his setup in his counts.
Well, I'm sorry, Kurt. Here's where Marlon has to be patient. He does strike out. He does chase pitches. He has to make sure Liriano throws something in the zone.
Chopper toward third. Tough hop. And Ramirez on the run, and Alvarez can't handle the throw. The run will score. It would have anyways, but again, the Pirates can't get an out.
Well, great play by Aramis Ramirez coming in, getting that ball in the shortstop. Had no chance at Duffy at home. That ball was just a clank by Pedro Alvarez. Wasn't in the dirt.
No, that was in the air. I thought it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was a clank. Yeah, he just dropped it.
He's having a tough year at first base.
That is the 17th error committed by Pedro Alvarez, by far the most of any first baseman, in baseball. It's E3 RBI because the runner would have come to score even had the play been made. Second error of the inning committed by the Pirates.
For you young pitchers out there, this is the opportunity where you get a chance. Rarely do you get a chance to pick up your teammates and your defenders, and this is one of those situations.
Well, to borrow a quote from Fred Hurdle, is this where Liriano has to roll up his sleeves and do some yard work?
Yep. You get a double play right here, and nobody on the field is happier than Pedro Alvarez. And as a pitcher, you picked him up. And it so rarely happens.
He's got to do some yard work because the defense is planting some daisies in there. And they ain't pretty. Dandelion.
2 errors and a dropped pop-up, which is not among the errors in the inning.
I think he throws that again right here.
Yeah, I think.
Or slider. His slider's in here.
Well, you watch the first 3 pitches to Andrew Susek in this at bat, and there's a lot of conviction in all 3. It looks like he's trying to ramp it up a hair, try to pick up his defense.
And Susek strikes out for out number 2.
I told you, it looked like Liriano was doing his best. He was either upset at his defense or trying to pick him up, or both. Watch pitch 1 right there, 94,
nasty,
burrowing in on his hands. And then I guess that's a slider, right? But then another fastball to get him looking down and in. Then he goes up and away to get that strikeout, and that's about as good a sequence of pitching you're going to see. But he has to do it again right here with Crawford, one of the top RBI guys in the National League.
Giants need a big hit. They're 8 for 58 as a team with runners in scoring position on the road trip. They're 8 for 59. The Pirates stumble and bumble their way through the inning, but it only cost them 1 run. Going to the bottom of the 5th, 3-1 Pittsburgh. Strange and at times sloppy game here tonight. Pirates with a couple of errors in the top half of the inning. The Giants could get just the 1 run out of it, left 2 more men on. Both teams have left 8 men on already as Neil Walker leads off the bottom half of the inning. Sends a foul off to the left. Walker with an RBI single and a walk in this game. He'll be followed by Pedro Alvarez and then Francisco Cervelli, the 6, 7, 8 part of the Pittsburgh lineup. Walker and Alvarez were the 2 players who committed the errors in the just completed top half of the inning. Right on the outside edge, 0-2 as you get a shot from up above in the blimp on a picture perfect night for baseball.
And in case people aren't aware, the S-Arrow-2C is Stand Up to Cancer. If you're wondering what that all meant down there, a nice night for that organization Friday night, I believe.
Yep. Left side, the foul. Got to be fun to be born in a city and then to grow up and play Major League Baseball for that team. Isn't that great?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, going home to Arizona for me was you playing in front of the kids you went to high school with, your little league friends, your teachers, and a lot of people have said you probably won't do what you thought you were going to do, which was fun. I always felt it's different back here though. Back east, these guys are part of the community in a very different way.
Again, the 0-2. High fly ball to very shallow right field. Brings Marlon Bird in for the first down. Let's take a look at some of the news around the majors today. The New York Mets are hoping to get David Wright back as early as tomorrow. He has been out for months with the back and hamstring issues, and they'd like to add him and help him bolster that 5-game lead in the National League East. Cole Hamels got his first win with Texas today. The Texas Rangers are currently in possession of the second wild card spot in the American League. The first wild card spot was the Blue Jays' possession, but they have now moved back into first in the East as they beat the Angels again today. The Yankees lost today. The Blue Jays rolling up 36 runs in 3 games on the Angels pitching staff.
Is that good?
It's about 12 a game.
Yeah, that's good. I tell you what, Garrett Richards too today. I never thought his stuff would ever allow that many runs to score, but I'll tell you what, Toronto, man, they're going to be a tough out if they get in.
Edwin Encarnacion went 4 for 4 with a homer today. Jose Bautista homered. Josh Donaldson, who drove in 6 last night, did not drive any runs today, but he had 2 hits today. Got 100 RBIs. Schill, if you were facing a lineup, it's an unusual lineup. Troy Tulowitzki leads off. Josh Donaldson with 100 RBIs hits second. Then Bautista and Encarnacion. What are you thinking as a starting pitcher?
One of the things that you realize when you get to the big leagues is there are some lineups where you have to be almost perfect some nights, and some guys can't take that, can't accept that, or whatever. But there are some. For when I played, it was the Yankees. That late '90s Yankees, the lineup. There's no rest, and that was the big difference. American League, National League.
Speaking of the Yankees, CC Sabathia left in the 3rd inning today. Soreness in his right knee. He'll have an MRI. Mark Teixeira is still out. They lost to Cleveland today. And Francisco Lindor hit a home run off Dellin Betances. As the strikeout is completed, Alvarez is gone 2 down. What about the state of the Yankees right now?
Well, this is what the issue is. You know, they might be getting good news this coming week that Michael Pineda might be coming back, but you know, this is the tough part with the Yankees because they are an older team and they are going to have some injuries, and you know, the depth in their rotation is always something that has been questioned, and you know, but they seem to figure out a way to get it done, don't they?
Yep. Well, given how important it is to try to win your division and avoid the 1-game wild card game, it's going to be pretty interesting down the stretch between those two teams.
I always look at it like the Giants. They're looking at their lines going, okay, if we have to play with this team for the rest of the way, that's what we have to do. You don't look, you know, if those guys come back, great. If Michael Pineda comes back and gives you 7 or 8 quality starts, awesome. But you don't count on anything that is in front of you at that moment. And September comes, and somebody's going to come out in September for every one of these teams and be a surprise, good or bad.
They've got some pretty good starts out of Luis Severino. They've needed those starts.
What an arm.
Oh boy. And David Wright coming back for the Mets with Lucas Duda going on the disabled list. That, you know, they lose one, but they might be getting one.
If only they could get Cespedes going.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about, what was it against Colorado? 5 for 6 with 3 homers and 7 RBIs.
Not bad.
And did you see the out? The out was a rocket to deep right center that was hauled in.
Well, that's the thing. He hit a home run. It was either walk off or a game, you know, put him ahead. to right center in Citi Field. And when he's doing that, it makes it difficult to pitch to.
2 outs and nobody on, a ball and 2 strikes. The count on Francisco Cervelli, who is 1 for 2 tonight. Pirates leading 3-1 here in the bottom of the 5th. Lays off the breaking ball, 2-2. Very close divisional race right now in the AL East and in the NL West, where the Giants are a game back of the Dodgers. Those are the 2 closest races right now. The makings of a race potentially in the NL Central. Obviously, the Pirates 4 back of the Cardinals. The Nats are 5 back of the Mets. And Texas 4 back of Houston. It's a runaway in the AL Central. Kansas City up 12.5 on Minnesota. Cervelli's 2 for 3. Here's a look at what's coming your way this week on ESPN. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. The Cardinals against the surging Diamondbacks tomorrow night at 10 Eastern. The Cubs and Giants, a big series for both. Wednesday night presented by Mobile One. And 1 week from tonight will be at Dodger Stadium for the Cubs and the Dodgers. With the record that the Cubs have right now, they would be leading 4 of the other 5 divisions. And they're 6.5 out in 3rd place, but they're in pretty good spot for a wild card right now, unless the Giants and Dodgers, whoever doesn't win the division, can run them down. By the way, Jake Arrieta is scheduled to start next Sunday for the Cubs. So we'll get a look at a guy who's had about as good a year as anybody, maybe this side of Zach Greinke.
Well, I think they tweaked the wild card finally to be exactly what they wanted it to be.
Yep.
Keeping a lot of markets in the game, making the deadline incredibly interesting from a because I mean the Tigers sold David Price and 2 weeks later they were 3 or 4 games out of a playoff spot.
And I like what it also does too. It puts a premium on winning the division.
Yep. You guys like 1 game though, as opposed to 2 out of 3?
Yes.
For the wild card, absolutely.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's a game 7 right out of the gate to start the playoffs.
Well, it does the thing that now you don't have teams sitting there going, well, we're going to make it no matter what, so let's just play this. Winning the division is back again to almost as important as it was before the wild card. And there's 2 teams on the field right now that know it.
Yep, they played in the National League wild card game last year in this ballpark. And the Giants behind the arm of Madison Bumgarner and the grand slam from Brandon Crawford. Beat the Pirates 8-0, went on to win the World Series as Bumgarner pitched 52 2/3 innings in the playoffs last year.
And he fixed the bus this year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The bus broke down. I think it was in the first part of this road trip, I believe. And Bumgarner got out and fixed it. Liriano with a fly ball to center, but that'll end the inning. We're through 5. And the Pirates lead the Giants 3-1. Brought to you by the new movie No Escape in theaters everywhere Wednesday. And T-Mobile, switch to the Data Strong network. Top of the sixth, 3-1 Pirates lead the Giants. Francisco Liriano has not been at his best, but he's gotten the outs he has needed to get as we check out now our high-strength performance brought to you by Chevy Silverado.
Well, he hadn't even been close to his best, but here he is with a lead going into the sixth. When he had to make pitches, he made, this is the Susac at bat, he made two fantastic pitches right there, set up a ball, overthrew this pitch, but this is the difference between stuff. When you throw the ball mid-90s, you can get away with balls in the strike zone, and that to me was probably the biggest pitch of the night. A great fastball, perfectly located to Crawford, inning over.
You look at the line, and it looks like he's kind of been in command all night long, and that has not been the case. But he has battled, gotten the outs when he's needed to get them, looking for his 9th win of the season.
Well, it's one of the things I love about baseball. You talk about position players who you need to see. Well, if you watch this guy every day, you know, you come to appreciate how good he is. There are some line scores. You can look at this line score and go, must have had a really good night. You watch, he's battling.
And recently, they tend to win when he's been on the mound. Some of that a credit to him. Some of that obviously good work by the offense or the bullpen. But
got to score.
Yep.
Let's go, Mark! Let's go!
PNC Park as we go to the 6th inning. 3-1 Pirates. Kelby Tomlinson. A base hit and a ground out. Joe Panik on the DL with lower back inflammation. Hoping to get him back perhaps in early September. Hunter Pence, an oblique injury. Angel Pagan, a knee injury. Sounds like of the three, perhaps Panik could be first. Big swing and a miss and a down and in slider, but it's 0-2. The bespectacled Kelby Tomlinson.
You think he saw that pitch in the minor leagues? That hard slider down at your foot?
On deck, Gregor Blanco. Then we may see a pinch hitter. There's activity in the Giants' pen.
It looks like it's Jeremy Affeldt.
It is. Yep. A rare slider over the plate in the zone for Liriano. Fouled off, and the count remains 1-2. It is Affeldt up in the pen for the Giants. And the only question is, does Bruce Bochy resist the temptation to pinch hit Madison Bumgarner?
Yeah.
Activity in the Pirates pen as well. Right-hander Archimedes Caminero.
You are so excited he's up right now.
It's like a play-by-play guy's dream.
Yeah.
Two numbskull analysts like us, it's our nightmare.
27-syllable name.
You call him AC. Cammy, Archie. Swing and a miss and a high fastball, one down. Number 5 of the night for Liriano.
Oh, nice.
Strike taken by Blanco. Juan Perez has come out in the on-deck circle for the Giants. And that is ripped right through Alvarez into right field. Blanco with good speed on his way to second. The throw from Blanco is cut. Safe at second is Blanco.
I know this is a first year playing first base, but this is a line drive right at him. It goes right through the wickets. I mean, that went right between his legs.
Did it hop first or did that
No.
in the air?
No, it went. Watch this. It goes right in the air.
Oh,
and it is an error on Alvarez, his second of the night.
I know balls will hook on you, but
that ball was hooking.
But you know, you would think by August, whatever today's date is, that he would. That's
Nobody feels worse on the field than him.
No.
And I feel bad.
It's an awful field.
Yep.
Because we've all done it.
But as a pitcher, you know what? You get, it's frustrating, but you never get mad because you know the effort's there. Guys are trying as hard as they can do it. And the other thing is, it's hard to explain to people the speed, how fast this game moves.
Well, that ball's
right, and you got to catch that ball. It's the big leagues, and I get that. But people can't understand and appreciate the speed with which the game moves on the field. That ball was smoked.
You don't mind guys making errors. Guys are going to make errors.
Right.
You understand that. It's the ones who
the effort is part of the error.
Who cares?
That's the only issue I ever had was if you made, and that doesn't happen a lot here. No. But it does.
It does happen.
Oh yeah, those are generally where conversations between teammates occur.
So here's Perez pinch hitting. 2 errors on Alvarez tonight, his 17th and 18th of the season. A guy who moved from third base to first base this year. The main reason they moved him from third to first was throwing errors. But tonight, both of his errors have been with the glove. And that's been the majority of the problem, obviously, over at first, not needing to throw nearly as much as he did as a third baseman. And again, the Pirates rather do have options. If they're leading games, he comes out. Spanked into left center, a base hit. Blanco is going to be held at third. He started back towards second, needing to make sure that ball went through. So it's Giants on the corners with 1 out.
Blanco was jockeying with Liriano a little bit right here, but you know, that's a ball. You know, you say a ball hit to your left, but if or to your right, you have to stay, and it was hit to his right. But you know, if you check where Gunn was playing and you get a good secondary lead, that ball would have been to his left. He didn't get a secondary lead. But again, you're down 2. The last thing you want to do in that situation is get doubled up. There's only 1 out in the inning. Now you got the top of the order coming up. You know, you have to think that, you know, we should be able to score at least 1 more run right here in this inning.
Aoki is 0 for 3. As Bruce Bochy alluded to in the interview we had with him a little bit earlier, it has been a real struggle for this team to come up with the clutch hit on this road trip through St. Louis and Pittsburgh, 2 of the better pitching staffs in baseball. The Cardinals, the best pitching staff in baseball. But look at those numbers. A 150 average with runners in scoring position on this trip.
I think this is, either way, I think this is Liriano's last hitter.
Think he's going to let him pitch to Duffy, who's got 3 knocks already?
I'm reaching, I know, but
something about you. You've always been conservative.
Yeah, you know me.
Well, here's why Aoki has to, at some point, look in and try to get out in front of one.
He's jammed it twice.
And they're just staying in there. And you wonder if there's a time if he would come up to bat and move 6 inches off the plate just to give Liriano and Cervelli a different look and say, "Whoa, now what?"
Can you cheat in from there?
Well,
where he is?
Yeah, but I don't know when you're that close to the plate like he is. I think you can cheat him. I don't know if you can keep it fair.
Base hit through the left side. And the Giants are back within a run.
I mean, this is...
I don't know why they did that.
I don't understand why they went away.
Yeah.
You know, he has great ability to hit the ball inside out, but he's, like you said, Liriano's done now. The Giants finally got a hit with runners in scoring position.
He was in his kitchen all night long.
Watch his swing, though. Watch that back foot. He has a little step and then a big leg kick. Watch his back foot, though. After I mean, he's running out of the box while he's hitting that. His whole upper body leaves, but it just keep that. Watch his hands, though, how they stay back. Stay back and just slap it in that right past Aramis Ramirez.
So Liriano is gone after 5 1/3. The lead is down to 1. Archimedes Caminero jogging in from the Pirates pen. some sloppy defense from the Pirates. And it's 3-2. 2 on, 1 out. Pitching change for Pittsburgh. Right-hander Archimedes Caminero, who is working on a streak of 11 consecutive scoreless appearances, covering the last 14 1/3 innings. He has struck out 62 batters in 58 2/3. Now it's all about keeping these inherited runners on base right now for the Giants. But he's going to face Matt Duffy, who's 3 for 3. And then if it continues beyond that, Buster Posey. And Duffy's had some good at-bats tonight. I know, Crocky, you've been really impressed with what you've seen tonight.
Yeah, well, I've been impressed all season with what he's done, because you watch him in little bits and pieces last year when he was called up, but when you get to see the real player every day, and he's impressive.
With the 3 hits, he has raised his average up from 304 to 309. He entered the night 10th in the National League in batting average. Bounced foul, 0-2. Caminero, meanwhile, has inherited 19 runners this year. Only 2 of them have scored. That'll help you win a popularity contest with the starting rotation.
Very much. And coming into the season, they didn't know what they were getting with him. I know, when I was down in the Pirates spring training camp in Bradenton this year, Mike LaValliere said, he goes, this kid has an unbelievable arm if he can figure it out as far as the secondary pitches.
He's 28 years old, from the Dominican Republic. Had a little bit of time with the Marlins each of the last 2 years. Acquired in February, just before spring training opened this year, from the Marlins for cash considerations. The Pirates are certainly getting their value out of that one. Ground ball to short. There's 1 and 2. They turn the double play.
They might look at this one. They might look at this one.
Yeah. Pirates staying on the field. Will the Giants ask for a review?
I mean, a pretty quick turn right there by Gunn. Walker with a good turn, a good throw. Well, that's going to be close. Safe. Doesn't have to be in the back of the glove, correct?
In the back of the glove.
I don't know if they can overturn it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Giants are challenging.
And the Giants are going to ask for a review. Boy, that's close. Again, the call on the field is paramount because it's out. So do they have enough to overturn it, or will the call stand? Crowd getting a look at the replay here.
About 30-some thousand umpires, huh?
They're looking at it on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Crew chief Jerry Davis been around a long time.
It has to be in the back of your glove, or it does not?
It has to hit the back of the glove.
And he's safe, I think.
I think he's safe too.
Yeah.
Although here, this might be a better angle.
Ball's in the back of his glove right now.
Puts down. But is that enough to overturn?
That's where.
Yeah. If they called him safe on the field, I think they could easily uphold the safe call. But is there enough to overturn this?
I don't know if they can or not.
Like the Pirate guys are watching and kind of walking back towards their position.
Yeah. I know McCutchen hasn't moved really. But they had the people out on the field, that throw the hot dogs up and towels and shirts and stuff. They were out on the field. They waved them back.
Does not get much closer than this one.
No, this is close. Like you said, is there enough to overturn it?
We could be here a while.
Like those first 2 innings didn't put us here in that predicament to start.
The call stands. The inning is over. 3-2 Pirates going bottom 6. And a new pitcher out of the bullpen for San Francisco, veteran left-hander Jeremy Affeldt. Top of the order coming up for the Pirates, beginning with Gregory Polanco. '44th appearance of the season for Affeldt, who has had his ups and downs this year and has been better lately. This is his 766th career major league appearance as Polanco tries to bunt his way aboard, but it's a foul ball. Polanco's 2 for 3, singled, tripled, grounded out. Don't see a right-hander throwing right now in the Giants, man. So now Affeldt's a guy, Rookie, not your pure Javier Lopez kind of specialist. He'll face a lot of righties.
Yeah,
too.
He's their full inning, 6th, 7th inning specialist. Look how nervous he was.
Yeah, uptight's a word you use often with him, huh?
Yeah.
Good guy.
Don't you think going to the Hall of Fame one day?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No question.
I think his hat alone should go to the Hall of Fame.
That was Kurt Schilling.
Here's a drive down the right field line, but foul.
Was he like that as a player?
Yes.
Such a great demeanor. That's why his clubhouse is always the way it is, too.
Yeah, he's never. I mean, even if someone got mad at him and wanted to fight him on the team, they was just laugh at him.
Has he ever really? Have you ever known him or seen him really chew out a player for something? I guess that happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I mean, I've talked to players that said you know, the last thing you want to do is get called into his office when he feels like you've done something you shouldn't do.
Because they've had all kinds of personalities over this last 5-6 years, but it's always managed to blend in, get along.
But you know, you watch the minor league kids get called up, the guys that they try to bring in, they're looking for a certain thing.
Polanco strikes out.
The thing is what we talked about, right? I mean, it's the hurdle. You got 5 guys for 3 positions. That stuff will work itself out.
Yeah.
Nobody has a job given to them. And you see that with the Giants. You see that with the Pirates. You see that, and then we were talking about Joe Madden. Game 1 of the playoffs, or they play a 1-game wild card. Joe Madden doesn't care whose contract says what. He's going to give his pitcher gives him best chance to win the ball.
Well, and they've done that just by moving Schwarber into the lineup, to putting Castro on the bench for the most part.
Castro's been playing a lot of second base.
Yep.
Addison Russell moving over to shortstop.
I think
but that's the beautiful thing when you come in after the fact of this guy being, you know, paid this and this guy being paid this, and here's his contract.
You're not beholden to any of the contracts.
Yeah.
Well, and what you end up getting, you get the roster to realize, okay, wait a minute. If we win the World Series, everything fixes itself.
Yep.
Marte drills one to left field. Back to make the catch, Aoki. 2 down.
Hey, that ball is scorched right there, but this is, Jeremy Apfel getting this inning in, and Bochy's like, oh, you get out, keep it a 1-run game, but listen to this sound.
Apfel's looking, and they're talking. He's acting like he's confused of how that ball got hit that hard. And then Susik's thinking, I'm just glad that ball stayed inside the walls.
Yeah, I'm glad he hit that 1/1 millionth of an inch lower, and that ball's in the seats.
And Neil Walker saying if you just got it up in the air a little bit more, you would have hit it out. Here's McCutchen. And he gets one up in the air. Aoki racing back, and it is gone. Number 19 on the season for McCutchen. And it's 4-2. Too bad they don't have any fun.
Can't wait to hear the story behind that one.
Now Ramos Ramirez, first pitch swinging, but to the wrong part of the ballpark. Straightaway center. Blanco hauls it in, and the inning is over. End of 6, and Andrew McCutchen has increased the Pirates' lead with his 19th of the season. Headed into the first row of seats to the left, and the Pirates now have a 4-2 lead on the Giants. on more than 400 devices with MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more every night on every device. Visit MLB.TV. Just activated off the disabled list today after a sprained knee. Jordy Mercer comes into the game and now to play short. Jung Ho Kang moves from short to third. Aramis Ramirez out of the game. And just delivering his first pitch of the night as Kang has moved to third. Just delivering his first pitch of the night is Joaquin Soria. And he enters to face Buster Posey. Soria was charged with a blown save after giving up a run in the 8th inning yesterday against the Giants. And he's got a lot of experience as a closer in his big league career.
Wild pitched him in yesterday. Bounced off Chris Stewart's chest. Got the runner on third in to tie the game. See Buster Posey making a conscious effort, hit the ball the other way. A couple fly balls to.
Now gets in on him just enough, and the ground ball to short for out #1.
It'll find you, won't it, Shell?
It will always find you.
Well, one of the reasons the Pirates are winning this game tonight, even though they've been sloppy at times, they've gotten out of jams. Liriano with a big strikeout of Susac and a ground ball off the bat of Crawford to end a threat in the 5th. And then in the 6th inning, the double play ball off the bat of Matt Duffy. They reviewed it, and the call stood. So 9 men left on base by the Giants tonight. Same number left on by the Pirates. Both teams have had their chances.
I'm going to make a comment that probably will make all the sabermetricians mad, which is if the Pirates find a way to win this game tonight, Liriano had a huge start, a great start, and the numbers will not look that way.
Because of how he battled with less than his best stuff. And
I agree to some degree that wins are kind of overstated from the standpoint of, you know, I don't think you can judge a season on wins alone. But this, if they win and Liriano gets the win, this will be a fantastic job by him just for the battling that he had to do to get them where they were.
And early he pitched around his own mistakes. Right. And then in the end, you know, his last couple innings, he pitched around their mistakes.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question. Would you rather go 21-6 with an ERA of 3.5, or would you rather go 13-6 with an ERA of 2.5?
21-6.
You think you've had a better year with a 21?
I'd rather him go 21-6.
Generally, when you win 21 games, all the other numbers are fixed.
Weren't you talking wins with Bumgarner in the clubhouse before the game?
He thinks wins are important for a pitcher. And he's so darn big, I wasn't going to argue with him. Whether he'd have said they aren't important, I wouldn't have argued with him.
Apparently he's going to be a mechanic this offseason.
Yep. If the baseball thing doesn't pan out. Meanwhile, here's the line for Francisco Liriano, as Schill talked about. Well, he found a way to get in and out.
The sabermetricians would look at that and go, "Our fantasy. Look at that. That's terrible. That's not worth anything. That's worth a win." And as hard as it was for him to get those 5 in the 3rd, he did. That's what good pitchers do. They find a way for their team to be able to win a game when they're not good.
He pitched around the defensive mistakes his teammates made as well. Bird with another ground ball to short. So Jordan Mercer's off the DL into the game, and he's immediately had a couple of plays.
Well, like we say, it'll find you no matter where you are. And, you know, Buster Posey comes up, hits a grounder to Jordy Mercer, Marlon Bird. Oh, I mean, look at that one. He caught that one barehanded after it hit the heel of his glove.
Nobody but him knew that, though.
No. Everyone thought, well, he came up with that clean.
So 2 down here in the Giants' 7th, and the batter was Andrew Susac, 0 for 2 and a walk.
I think of all the things as I went through the big leagues, I loved watching a good left-handed swing. But to me, there was nothing more enjoyable than watching a guy with soft hands take ground balls like a Vizquel or Iglesias, Ozzie Smith. I'll tell you, had great hands too. Very and will never get recognition was Dale Swain.
Oh,
he had such amazing hands.
Soria part of a very good Pittsburgh bullpen right now. Mark Melancon is the closer. He's tied for the major league lead with 38 saves on the season. The Pirates bullpen entering the game tonight had given up just 3 earned runs in its last 33 innings of work.
And this is what we talk about with Bruce Bochy and the Giants. And you know, when Joaquin Soria came over here, he was a closer for Detroit, not having a bad year at all. And when he came here, you know, they told him, look, you're our 8th inning guy, 7th or 8th inning guy, because we have Watson in the 7th or 8th, depending on who's hitting. But Melancon's our closer. You know, he accepts the role, and he's doing a good job for the Pirates.
We talked about wins for starters. How about a win stat for relievers? Elias telling us that the win Mark Melancon got yesterday is the 18th consecutive game where if a reliever got a decision, it was a win. They're 18-0 in their last 18 decisions as a bullpen. The last team to do that was the Pirates 106 years ago.
And that's not always a great reliever wins are not always a great stat, but the conversation back to, remember when Papelbon went to the Nationals and the conversation was around changing the back end of that bullpen and he had to close and you know all of those things to accommodate him going there. So you didn't hear anything here. Yeah. Soria could have come over and said I want. He didn't, because to some guys the ring is everything.
And I think what the win stat shows, a lot of close games. You're coming in a tie game, and also especially here at home, Pirates have had a lot of come from behind victories. So sometimes say a Hughes or a Watson are in there, they're down a run. Joe scored 2 in the 8th, or they're not Joe Blanton, and they win the game. So.
I think Jay Happ even had one of those, pitch a couple innings out of the pen to help him.
I thought that was going to be one of the underappreciated moves of the deadline.
2-out walk to Susak.
Wow, it's an interesting pitcher. 3-2 breaking ball,
especially with Brandon Crawford coming up.
Exactly.
Tying run.
You know, he's the guy in the 7th right now. Well, I guess they're going to let the 8th go to Watson, but yeah, I mean 3-2 pitch. Andrew Susak. You know, you throw a fastball, he hits a home run, nothing to it. But you know, you throw an uncompetitive breaking ball, it bounces right by home plate. You know, now you got to face one of the top RBI guys in the league.
A lot of times, guys like that, closers have so much confidence in their breaking ball they don't believe they need to throw for a strike to get a strikeout. He was looking for a chase there. Didn't get it. But you're right. I mean, that's one of those ones. Solo home runs generally don't beat you.
Unless you hit 3.
Right.
Like the Pirates did yesterday.
Don't leave anybody on.
Tying run at the plate. Crawford with 19 home runs on the season. In the top 10 of the National League in RBIs, he's got 75.
Remember what Bruce Bochy said, his power of the opposite field has shown up this year. Yesterday got robbed of a home run by Marte the other way.
And that's the pitch.
Yeah.
When a guy starts to drive the ball the other way, that's how you stop him from being comfortable out there. You can't just throw a ball in. You got to throw a strike in, or you got to break your guy's bat in. Nothing you can do with that pitch.
Yeah, because it's a ball.
Yep. But there are about 9 different things in that take that told me as a pitcher he wants that ball in there. That ball was way in, not hittable, nothing you could do with that, but he was looking and he wants that ball in there. That tells me if I'm a power guy, I got the other side of the plate if I can make a quality pitch.
And he tried to right there. Yep. The breaking ball just broke around the plate.
Soria missed his spot badly there. Look where Cervelli set up, practically in the other batter's box.
That's a tie game. You can't do that. Can't miss by that much. So all you got to do is paint this fastball away to get a good result, I think. You don't want to overthrow this pitch, which is exactly what he did. Oh, he got lucky. But that's what stuff does for you. His stuff is so good.
Yeah, that ball missed by just enough inside that Crawford couldn't get to it.
Yep.
That's how far he pulled it.
And now the count is full.
You know, if you're a hitter, you have to have that breaking ball. You threw a 3-2 breaking ball to Andrew Susak. You know, Crawford, like I mentioned, one of the top RBI guys in the league. You know, you have to, in the back of his mind, you got to think, all right, you know, it wouldn't shock me if he threw a breaking ball right here.
Runner goes, and the pitch swung on and well hit, deep left center field. McCutchen, Marte both racing back, can't get it, but it will skip into the seats. And the runner's going to be sent back to third. A break for the Pirates there.
Tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me. 3-2, 2 outs. He's running on the pitch. It wouldn't surprise me if Bruce Bochy came out and asked, you know, why he can't score on that play.
Right.
And they never do with a you know, a ground rule double. But here's where you got with Soria against Brandon Crawford. You know, he looked like he was trying to establish in early, which he did right there. You know, now you're trying to work both sides,
and he did.
That pitch right there, if that, you know, that a whole different at bat.
That was the one to put him away with.
Yeah, he tried to strike him out with that pitch, that breaking ball. He didn't get it. Then he missed badly on a couple pitches, and then he threw it right where Cervelli wanted, just maybe up a little bit. But you know, like Kurt said, here's a guy that's, you know, he figured out, you know, hey, this is fun hitting the ball the other way. You know, I got power the other way, so I don't have to worry too much about if they throw it away.
Well,
I can get to it.
Very few parks. That's not a home run in number one. And
long.
I would argue there's about 10 square feet in left center field where you could hit a ball that those two couldn't get to it, and he hit it there.
And Marte almost ran it down.
He did.
I just don't understand that rule. Like, you don't tell me 410 feet away, Susac wouldn't have scored on that play?
Right.
Meanwhile, Antonio Bastardo is now throwing. Brandon Belt has been sent up as a pinch hitter, but Soria will stay. Belt, a .275 hitter with 17 home runs, a .237 hitter against lefties. Bastardo was up earlier, just got up again now. But Soria has to stay at face Belt, who's the potential go-ahead run.
Hey, normally this would be a intentional walk, but Blanco has swung the bat pretty well tonight.
Well, it's also the thing, power arms. Bullpens these days, velocity can neutralize lefty-righty matchups a lot of time. You got enough to get a ball by a guy. Soria does. Helps you.
The splits on Belt, better numbers against righties. At third, Susac. At second, Crawford.
I think I don't fool around here. He tried to fool around with Crawford, trying to get him to chase something away. I think you got to go back in.
Great block. Wow. That was a heck of a block right there.
Well, that's what he did yesterday, I believe. That cost him the tie of the game. Is when Chris Stewart was catching, he bounced one, hit off Stewart's chest protector.
It's not just that he stopped it, it's that he smothered it.
That ball wasn't getting past him, was it?
Fastball up and in, 2-2.
Now that pitch right there, this is the at bat. He needs to end the at bat right here. And I think that pitch right there is a setup for either for his split or changeup or a fastball down and away.
He got the first 2 outs on ground balls. Now he's thrown 29 pitches.
Well, Clint Hurdle might have left Soria in here, bringing the lefty. You might get Bumgarner.
He goes split.
And a hanging curveball, but he got a fly ball to center. McCutchen drifting back, and the inning is over. The Giants have now left 11 men on in this game. to everybody who sent in their pictures, supporters of the Giants or the Pirates tonight, as we continue to bring you Sunday Night Baseball from PNC Park. Final game of a 4-game series, with the Pirates still on top, leading the Giants 4-2 despite committing 3 errors. Those errors have allowed the Giants to score both of their runs. They're both unearned tonight. Giants have left 11 men on, including 2 in scoring position in the just completed top of the 7th. Let's take a look now at tonight's home field advantage, brought to you by Quicken Loans. And the Pirates have sure seemed to have an advantage here at PNC Park. Only the St. Louis Cardinals have a better home record this year than the Pirates. The Pirates are 43-20. Changes now for San Francisco. Ere Adrianza is in the game at second base. Tomlinson was lifted for the pinch hitter last half inning. And Bruce Bochy had Affel come out throw his warm-up pitches, and then came out and made the pitching change, bringing in another lefty, Josh Osich. 15 appearances and just 2 earned runs allowed in 12 1/3 innings. Timeout. Timeout. Explanation being given. Oh.
Pretty, actually, simple explanation. A lot of times that happens when your reliever's not ready and the inning starts, or when the inning's getting ready to start.
I think what they may have done too, we'll have to wait for the lineup to come up. This is, with the change, they can put Osich in the 7th spot, which was the last spot that hit last half inning. So they can double switch and put Adrianza down in the 9 spot. And that's what it is. So the pitcher, Osich in the 7, Adrianza hitting 9th. You've mailed it in with your scorecard. Huh?
Well,
was that before or after the spill of the Mountain Dew?
It was a spill.
Yeah.
And it kind of ruined it.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah. Well, more than kinda.
We'll bounce back.
Yeah.
Jung Ho Kang leads off the 7th for the Pirates. He has walked with the bases loaded, picking up an RBI. He's had a base hit. He's also struck out. He'll be followed by Neil Walker, Pedro Alvarez. 4-2 Pittsburgh, bottom 7. So with the changes, and I'm just saying this because I'm really hoping we're going to see this. There, and you know where I'm going. There's only one available bench player left on the Giants bench. Is Gong Brown's one to the left side, backhanded Crawford. Look at the strength of the arm, but safe at first is Gong as Posey was pulled off the bag.
Going to ask if he saw anything. I mean, it was funny because Posey, it looks like he's still on the base right there. Yeah,
but they lost their challenge earlier. Right?
Well, what inning are the
he's not on.
Oh yeah,
he's not on. Good call.
He's not even close.
Oh.
Yeah, of course we didn't see when he got the ball, so he don't. And even if he was off the base.
So even though you've lost your challenge from the 7th inning and beyond, you could go out and request a review, and
it looked like
that's what's going to happen.
It looked like when it hit his glove, the ball was in, but it was. Again, this is one of the.
He's
how
on.
Can they reverse
He's
it?
on. He's out.
So this is a crew chief review.
It was funny because usually you see a guy go like this, you know, like.
Oh wait,
like
he's not even touching the base. Okay, there you go.
Yep. So the crowd just saw the one we showed you moments ago where you couldn't see the ball going into Posey's glove. You could just see his foot coming off the bag. So their assumption, and they may be somewhat biased, you're being Pirates fans, was that he should be safe.
Well, they're supposed to be biased. That's what makes it fun.
You know, it's funny because a lot of times the player will immediately Like Andrew McCutcheon yesterday stole second. Immediately he looked in at Hurdle and said, you know, challenge, or you know, with Posey it was more like he looked in and he put his hands up. I go, yeah, I don't know.
Well, for what it's worth, Nick Leyva and John Hogong both signaled safe as soon as the play happened. But
always
right.
He used to be able to get umpires sometimes to trick them. Yeah, you can't tell that, but that one, the other one was clear.
Yeah, we saw Nick though. Nick Davis said he was off the base. Nick wouldn't lie. Wow, they called him out.
See, there he looked like he was on the base easily.
Well, see, that's where a veteran first baseman, once he knew his foot was on the base at some point, he would just catch it, come off the base, and throw. I mean, he was still stretching when his foot was coming on.
Well, he looked at the dugout and kind of gave up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I was on or not.
Have to talk to Buster about fibbing.
Wow, he's such a good person.
Yeah.
So honest.
Doesn't have it in him.
The longer he stays in this game, he'll learn.
Yeah.
So 1 out of the inning, and here's Neil Walker now turning around to bat for the right side.
That's a big out because now you turn Todd Walker around to his weaker side, or Neil Walker around to his weaker side, and then you have Alvarez who struggles against lefties coming up behind him.
Crawford. 2 down.
The biggest piece of that being leadoff hitter. The leadoff hitter changes everything right now in this game.
For those of you looking for Sports Center, it is currently airing over on ESPN News. We are here in Pittsburgh, bottom of the 7th inning, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, with the Pirates leading the Giants 4-2. And here's Pedro Alvarez, a couple of strikeouts and a sac fly. Home run cut, but he comes up empty.
Well, that's I've messed up a few balls here in this game. I'm going to try to make up for it and put us up 3. Junior Alvarez.
Yeah.
But that's going to be fun getting off tonight.
I don't. He ain't getting it off.
No, it'll be all over his pillowcase.
May as well get that at the beginning of a homestand. Just come and see every game.
Yeah.
Oh. He's got the whole act.
Got that
impressive.
hat over the ears like Alvarez wears.
Yep. Yeah, that's on for the first day of school.
Yeah, all right.
I think he had sunflower seeds and it didn't work. That's a good look.
Oh, 2. Lays off high, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Tony Watson up in the Pittsburgh pen. Driven to deep left. Opposite field power for Pedro Alvarez. There you go.
There you go. I tell you what, you don't know how good he feels right now. The blunders that he made defensively, keeping Liriano out there to throw more pitches than he should have thrown. That redemption right there to give him a run.
And on a team like this, how good his teammates feel for him, too. But when you have a guy with that much pop at the plate, the one thing you cannot do is leave a ball up in the zone
where they can extend.
That's why Clint Hurdle left him in to defend in the top of the 7th, because he knew he was going to get another shot here to hit in the bottom. But I would venture to guess that Sean Rodriguez somewhere is loosening his legs up a little bit to go into first base. Speaking of,
the 1-1 to Francisco Cervelli. Out in front of a changeup, 1-2. Cervelli 2 for 3 tonight. Pirates now with 5 runs on 10 hits, 3 errors. They've left 9. The Giants 2 runs on 8 hits, no errors. They've left 11.
Funny, you can see a little Posada in that, his front side, his follow through.
Posada just got his number retired.
Yep.
Pretty impressive. Long career for a catcher.
And he petted today. 2-2.
Yankees all about saving money, huh? They only had to fly him in once.
I'm thinking next year the opening day lineup is going to be like letter A, Q, R, 4, 9. Because they've retired everything from 1 to 60, haven't they?
Out of play.
Can we get a foul ball up here? I mean, are we too high?
No way.
Okay.
No, we're too high.
Pretty good view, though, huh?
Not bad.
That's incredible.
Clemente Bridge. Looking over towards downtown from our vantage point. Where are we? There we are. Give him the wave, guys. Good job. Ground ball to the right side to end the inning. Well, the Pirates add to their lead. Another home run. They're second in as many innings. This time it is Pedro Alvarez trying to make up for a couple of earlier errors. He goes deep to left field. His 20th home run of the season, much to the delight of his biggest fan. Great stuff. Ball on ESPN is presented by Taco Bell's new $1 Daredevil Loaded Grillers. Try all 3 if you dare. And in part by Mazda, driving matters. And National Mortgage Lender Quicken Loans. Home buy, refi, power. With John Kruk, Kurt Schilling, I'm Dane Schulman. Top of the 8th inning in Pittsburgh. Pirates 5, Giants 2. Changes for Pittsburgh. As expected, Sean Rodriguez takes over for Pedro Alvarez at first. And out of the bullpen is left-hander Tony Watson. Facing Gregor Blanco. And a high strike, 0-1. Watson making his 58th appearance of the season. A very good ERA of 2.24. Strikeout to walk ratio almost 5-1. Holding lefties to a 2.16 batting average. Pirates, by the way, this year are 60-1 when leading a game after 7 innings.
60-1?
60-1.
Bullpens are so good nowadays.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I saw a reliever throw an 88-mile-an-hour fastball.
They don't.
Sliders, changeups, 88, but no fastballs.
I think with Watson, the way his delivery, it's a little, low 3/4.
I would expect lefties to be hitting worse off him than 2-something.
I would too. But you know what? He's very proud of his fastball, so he throws fastballs a lot.
Lefties 216, righties 199. Broken bat roller. Rodriguez feeds Watson, covering just in time.
A heck of a play by Sean Rodriguez. That bat was flying right past him.
Bat went further than the ball.
Those are fun to watch.
Yeah, watch this. I mean, well, first of all, this is deep in the kitchen, but that, the barrel of that bat comes flying out, and you're trying to field the ball, and yell, get over. Look at that. He had to avoid it, hesitate, and then still quick hands. I mean, that's the middle infielder in him right there. Most normal first basemen had to take a while to get it out of their glove, but he got that out pretty quick and got it to Watson covering. And
there's Ari Adrianza now. Rodriguez, pretty useful guy, can play just about anywhere they need him.
He's got a Crucky-like flow going. Notice.
I wish I had. Look at that hair.
No, when you play.
No, it's still, when mine was like mangy looking.
Yeah, well, you were
dirty
looking.
Oh, yeah.
Popped up and out of play.
Look at the flow.
That's impressive.
Not quite DeGrom-ish.
No.
He's actually, you had to beat it.
Let's not go simple.
Well, he's a good looking dude.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, let's just stop right there. We all know the difference. Here's where Watson, though, has to, this is the difference between the Giants and the Pirates. Is the Pirates, their double switches are Jordy Mercer, Sean Rodriguez.
Yep.
The Pirates or the Giants are
young guys.
Adrianza and some other. I mean, even though Perez got a base hit, they don't have a juggernaut coming off their bench right now. And that's where if you get Angel Pagan and you get Panic and you get Pence back, then your bench becomes a little better. But you also understand why Madison Bumgarner pinch hit twice in St. Louis. They needed one run.
I'm just laughing thinking about his mindset going up against Rosenthal. Because my guess is he's going up there thinking, I can handle the bat against this guy, and then he sees 99.
He told me, he said the fastball looked like when it left his hand was waist high. By the time he swung at it was at his chest high.
But when he gets up there, he swings the bat.
I think that's
3
the
times
fear.
as hard as he can.
That's the fear that he's going to hurt an oblique.
which I don't think is possible for him.
Good pitch right there. 94 in on the hands.
Mercer takes charge, 2 down. Let's go back to the flow conversation that you guys started.
Look at that manicure. Look at the beard.
Yes, man.
It's not just Sean Rodriguez competing in the Junior League Baseball World Series for 15-year-olds. On the right is Nicholas Klein, whose favorite player is John Kruk. He's competing for Virginia from the Southeast region. This kid loves you. This kid.
I got to meet him then.
This is Kruk. This kid wants to be Kruk Jr.
I can tell Carl Rabbit. Carl's there.
There's a Junior League.
Oh, my goodness.
What a play.
My goodness.
Wow. By Jung Ho Gong. Started the game at short, at third right now after Mercer came in, charging, showing range, showing arm strength. Wow. Showing people why the Pirates have themselves such a bargain. Great play by Gong, and the inning is over. Two home runs yesterday, contributing offensively today. And look at this defensive play from third base. Firing it across the diamond to get the third out of the inning.
Yeah, well, they should give him some love on that play.
He's a player.
You know, in spring training, they kept saying, they said, keep an eye on this kid. He's got some pop in his bat. I'm not sure where he'll end up playing, but he's got some pop in his bat. I said, yeah, well, if he has pop in his bat, they got to find a place to play him. And yeah, that's how it works out. Someone gets hurt, or you just play a couple days, you get hot, and you can't get you out of the lineup.
And we talked about the glut of infielders they have. Unless he needs a rest or something like that, he's probably the first guy that Clint Hurdle pencils into the lineup in the infield.
Now we have this conversation every year about somebody's pitching staff, somebody's bullpen, somebody's infield, whatever. There's never a glut of anything over 162 games.
Hunter Strickland gave up a home run to Gong yesterday, facing Jordy Mercer here to begin the bottom of the 8th.
Well, this is one of those guys that our friend over here to our right refers to as a thrower.
You don't get to be this age with that kind of stuff and be bouncing back and forth if you could pitch, because this stuff is just insane.
Mercer grounds out. So how do you explain the high number of home runs? He's given up 2 on this road trip. He gave up a well-documented 6 home runs in October last year.
He's a thrower. He tries to throw the ball as hard. He's a gun guy. He's more interested in the velocity of his fastball than anything else. Because if he was serious about getting to that next level, he'd be untouchable. He's 98, 99, good breaking ball, but he's center cut. He's middle plate guy. In the big leagues, I don't care how hard you throw. You cannot make a living in the middle of the plate, no matter what your velocity is.
Yeah, in the minor leagues, when a pitcher first gets drafted, it's you have to throw strikes. In the big leagues, you have to throw quality strikes. Just throwing strikes ain't enough because you hang it over the center. I don't care if you throw 88 to 108, they can hit that.
The analogy I always use is in rookie ball up through A ball, the plate's 17 inches. Double A becomes about 13, 14 inches where you can work with. Triple A down to 10-8. In the big leagues, you got 4 or 5 inches on each side you can play with. And as your velocity goes down, that gets smaller. As it goes up, it gets larger. But nobody can live in that middle 5 unless you've got a sinker. That big Kevin Brown, Derek Lowe, Brandon Webb sinker.
Polanco can hit a fastball too.
A play for Crawford. Close, but they get Polanco by a half step 2 down. Meanwhile, the closer for the Pirates is up, Mark Melanson. He was having some kind of a season. Did blow a save recently after a run of 35 consecutive successful save opportunities. He's having quite a year.
The term I like to use was middle reliever command. If you can't command a fastball, you generally pitch in the middle of a bullpen or you pitch in the minor leagues.
This is what's fun to me because, like you said, Strickland has a great fastball. He loves to use it. And you got guys coming up that
can pull a bullet.
They're fastball hitters.
Marte sure looks like he's having fun playing baseball. Whether he's on the whether he's on the bases, up at bat, in the outfield.
Well, he came over in spring training. We were getting ready. We were waiting for Andrew McCutchen to do an interview for Sports Center with Andrew McCutchen, and he came over and entertained us for like 5 or 10 minutes. And I said, "Why don't you come on air?" He goes, "Oh no, I don't speak English." I was like, "Come on, man, you just sat there." But he knew we were after McCutchen and scheduled to have Andrew McCutchen on. But I mean, he was funny, dancing. Oh man, and he's funny too.
And that's part of the reason that clubhouse is probably so fun. But when I look at this guy, there's still ways to go. He's still got his ceiling is ridiculously high.
Ripped right back up the middle of base hit.
Well, now here comes another really good fastball hitter. So.
Well, this is a guy, at the term he hunts fastballs every at bat, no matter who the pitcher. And you can't throw a ball by him in the center of the strike zone when he's looking fastball unless he overswings. But this is the kind of guy who, this is a bad matchup for him, just because he's trying to throw the ball hard. And if you don't have a game plan and can't execute a game plan against this guy, you're going to have problems.
A very productive night for McCutchen. Homered his last time up. First pitch swinging at the fastball, and he fouled it off.
But you see where that pitch was. Susac setting down and away. The pitch is center of the plate, knee high.
That's a lot. And he got lucky.
Yeah, I mean, look where Susac's setting. He's setting on the outside black of the plate, and the ball drifts over the center, and
The thing is, he's a little late on that ball.
Yeah,
but
if it's not
that's
98,
a home run to right field.
Yeah, if it's not 98, it's.
That's the pitch that tells you right there.
But you saw how he tried to quick pitch.
Right, but that's the pitch right there. It tells you that that's not a guy that commands the fastball. You can't miss by that much and still have good control of your fastball. But you'd love to see a guy like this get that, though.
Oh, man.
The 1-1.
Because when he makes pitches like that,
that's all you can do with it.
Right. I just would assume somebody would have gotten to him by now and made him understand, or it's just not something he can execute.
Do you dare come in now, or do you breaking ball it?
Yes.
I mean, at some point. I'm
sorry, Mr. Schilling. We're going to have a little more clarity in your answer.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
You know what? This gets back to how well your catcher knows your pitcher. Are you comfortable throwing a waste breaking ball here? Because a waste breaking ball from this guy could be off the backstop. What kind of command can he throw you a good out of the strike zone breaking ball?
Just high.
That's nice. That's close too, but again, when the pitch before is 87 feet outside,
you're not looking for something on the black. I would imagine these guys are tough at bats from that perspective.
They're not fun.
Off the end of the bat to right field, and the inning is over. We will go to the 9th. The Pirates are 3 outs away, and Mark Melancon, he of the 38 saves this season, coming on to try to lock it up for Pittsburgh. It's a 5-2 lead for the Pirates going to the 9th. 2-3-4 coming up for the Giants. Thanks to everybody who sent in their tweets by using hashtag #RepMyTeam. Every Sunday, be sure to send in a picture of how you support your team, and your tweet could wind up on TV. Dan Shulman, Chris Schilling, John Kruk, Sunday Night Baseball, 9th inning. Pirates 5, Giants 2. A win for the Pirates would move them back within 3.5 of the Cardinals, who won earlier. A loss for the Giants would drop them back to a 1.5 behind the Dodgers. The Dodgers lost earlier. Mark Melancon, who shares the major league lead in saves at 38 with Trevor Rosenthal of St. Louis, on to face Matt Duffy, Buster Posey, and Marlon Byrd.
Well, you're getting the best 3.
Yeah. Another stat I think needs to be fixed, though, too. The save
How so?
Well, I think the tying run should need to be involved for a save to happen, either at the plate or on base.
You don't like 1 inning with a 3-run lead?
No, I don't. You can also get a save by throwing 3 innings with a 20-run lead.
Yes.
And so all saves, the save should be meaningful regardless of how you get it.
Weak ground ball to short, charged by Mercer. 1 down.
Hey, that whole at bat right there, the rollover on Duffy, the fastball in by Melanson. And, you know, you talk about the Pirates, how they hit a lot of guys. You know, they have a lot of hit batters, and they get hit a lot.
Yep.
But you watch how Liriano pitch, you watch now Melanson, you know, they're not afraid to pitch inside. And
have to.
Yeah, without question.
Yep. And if you can throw strikes inside, not just pitching inside, because I've always felt to a guy like Buster Posey, either throw that pitch for a strike, break his bat, knock him down, or hit him. If you're not going to do one of those 4 things, don't throw the ball in, because it's a waste. But that ball right there, that woke him up a little bit. He's got to be quick in there. He come back with a curveball.
And that's what you get.
Right.
If he's lucky, that ball's fouled off, because that ball's put in play. It's a rollover grounder to either third or short.
Now you got options. And with a hitter this good, you don't waste pitches. You either go back in, maybe bounce a curveball. I go back in.
And this is why you're 3 for your last 29.
Yep.
They're executing pitches on him.
He's going front door slider, I think. Yep.
Right in on his hands.
That was a little cutter, like a front door slider.
I've never seen that.
Interesting.
But what can you do with it?
Hey, when you're going that good, you kind of just make
but
stuff
what can you do with it? That's it right there. You hit a foul.
That's command.
We talked about the one blown save that came on Tuesday. By the way, that was in an inning in which there were 2 errors committed by the Pirates. Otherwise, Melanson would have an even longer streak. 38 for 40 overall in save opportunities this year. Big curveball. It's fouled off.
And regardless of the save statistic, he's having a year.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of guy, you know, I always go back to like the year Eric Gagne, that couple-year run where he had, or Mariano. This guy's a sure thing. Him and Trevor, Kimbrel, sure thing. And when you get to October, those things they get bigger.
A 1.55 ERA. Not a huge strikeout guy by closer standards, but great command. Just 12 walks in 58 innings.
But notice every pitch is a potential strike. Even when it's not. That ball right there, that wasn't a comfortable take.
Or it has a purpose.
It has a purpose, but it's always the hitter's defending a strike, even if it's not.
Ground ball to third. 2 down.
He hit again right there. So watch the multiple. He's got 3 pitches he throws here. And it's not that he throws 3 pitches. It's that when he misses to his side. Look at that. And you're going to see him playing with the frame of the K zone or outside of it. Especially against a guy like Buster. You don't throw the ball in the middle of the plate. You can't make a living in the middle of the plate. Every one of these pitches is a potential strike. And as a hitter, Crucky, nothing you can do with that.
No, not when they're all locations, all speeds, with all different movement.
Because that right there, missing that ball in the middle, is what you get when you work the corners. Because you shock a guy.
Marlon Byrd trying to get something started for the Giants here in the 9th.
Well, Tony Pena right there.
You went old school, Tony Pena.
Tony Pena right there with the crowd. I like that. But that's hey, I want this ball down here. He was trying to throw the ball below the zone.
I want this down here, and I don't have to block it if you bounce it.
Umpires don't like that.
Didn't go. 2 balls and a strike.
I think the first one, the umpire might have said, hey, you know what? If that happens again.
Yeah, if that ball bounces around you,
your strike zone's going to get a whole lot bigger next week.
Yeah. You know what it feels like to throw in a thimble, my friend?
Front door slider. Wow, that's interesting, because that's the only guy I ever saw do that, or the guy that taught the league to start doing that was Greg Maddux.
Well, that's like the righty throwing the two-seamer at the lefty's hip and having it come across. This is, look at this ball starts. It starts right at Marlon Bird's left elbow.
It's a pitch you can throw that never has to enter the strike zone to be a strike.
Yeah, and if he throws a straight one, he's going to hit you, but you don't know that.
And it's 90.
But that's saying is, if he throws that cutter that can come back to a strike like the pitch before, if you throw a four-seamer that's just off the plate a little bit and you think, all right, this is going to break, it has to hit.
Well, what it does is it allows you to throw into righties with the ball that moves in both directions.
I think here's where you see, okay, 3-2. You can't walk you, 3-run
slider
lead.
away. Oh, front door. Okay.
Got him.
Wow.
Pretty impressive inning right there.
Save number 39 for Mark Melancon as he takes over the major league lead in that category. The Pirates take 3 out of 4 from the Giants, and they remain 3.5 back of the Cardinals in the race of the National League Central. They're 44-20 at home. Catch up with all the latest baseball news with Baseball Tonight tomorrow at 5 Eastern on ESPN2. Cardinals and Diamondbacks 10 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night on ESPN2. The final score: the Pirates 5, the Giants 2. For Kurt Schilling, John Kruk, and our entire Sunday night crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying thanks for watching. SportsCenter is next.